ಎಲಚೆ ಹಿತವಾಗಿದೆ ಬುತ್ತಿ ಕಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ನೆಲದಮ್ಮ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ಹೌದು ಹೌದು ಬುತ್ತಿ ಕಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ನೆಲದಮ್ಮ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ಕತ್ತಾಳೆ ಗಡ್ಡೆಯ ಬೇಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಟವಳೆ ಕಾರೆಯ ಹಣ್ಣುಗಳ ಮುಳ್ಳಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಜೋಡ್ತವಳೆ ಕತ್ತಾಳೆ ಗಡ್ಡೆಯ ಬೇಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಟವಳೆ ಕಾರೆಯ ಹಣ್ಣುಗಳ ಮುಳ್ಳಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಜೋಡ್ತವಳೆ ಕೆರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕುಂಕುಗಡ್ಡೆ ಹೊಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಸಗಡ್ಡೆ ಹೊಲಟಮೋ ಗಡ್ಡೆಗಳ ಪೊದೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಚ್ಚಿಟ್ಟವಳೆ ಕೆರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕುಂಕುಗಡ್ಡೆ ಹೊಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಸಗಡ್ಡೆ ಲವಟಮೋ ಗಡ್ಡೆಗಳ ಪೊದೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಚ್ಚಿಟ್ಟವಳೆ ಬುತ್ತಿ ಕಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ನೆಲದಮ್ಮ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ಬುತ್ತಿ ಕಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ನೆಲದಮ್ಮ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ಇಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲಿಗಳು ಮರದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಜ್ಜೇನು ಹೊಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಓಡಿವೆ ಕಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಮೊಲಗಳು ಇಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲಿಗಳು ಮರದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಜ್ಜೇನು ಹೊಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಓಡಿವೆ ಕಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಮೊಲಗಳು ಬೇಲಿಯಿಂದ ಹಾರಿವೆ ಕಾಟೋಳಿ ಅಕ್ಕಿಗಳು ಹಸಿದವರ ಬಾಳಿಗೆ ಅನ್ನದ ಅಗಳಾಗಿವೆ ಬೇಲಿಯಿಂದ ಹಾರಿವೆ ಕಾಟೋಳಿ ಅಕ್ಕಿಗಳು ಹಸಿದವರ ಬಾಳಿಗೆ ಅನ್ನದ ಅಗಳಾಗಿವೆ ಬುತ್ತಿ ಕಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ನೆಲದಮ್ಮ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ಹೌದು ಬುತ್ತಿ ಕಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ನೆಲದಮ್ಮ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ಬುತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಬಿಸಿಲ್ಲ ಕಳಕಿತ್ತು ಕಲಗಲಿಲ್ಲ ಬುತ್ತಿ ಕಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ನೆಲದಮ್ಮ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ಬುತ್ತಿ ಕಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ನೆಲದಮ್ಮ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ಬುತ್ತಿ ಕಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ ನೆಲದಮ್ಮ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಳಮ್ಮ.
Thank you so much, Swaraj, Chandru, Beru Bevra team. Every song that you sing is so lively and it has such a environmentally and socially relevant message. Thank you so much.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ.
ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ಅವಕಾಶವನ್ನು ಕಲ್ಪಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ರಿ. ಕಿಸಾನ್ ಸ್ವರಾಜ್ ಸಮ್ಮೇಳನಕ್ಕೆ ಆಹ್ವಾನ ಕೊಟ್ಟು 3 ದಿನಗಳ ಕಾಲ ನಾವು ನಿನ್ನೆನೇ ಹೊರಡೋಣ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡ್ವಿ, ಶೆಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಆಗೋಯ್ತು ಅಂತ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಇವತ್ತೂ ಉಳಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಟ್ಟಂತಹ ತಮಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲ ಪದಾಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳಿಗೂ ಒಂದಿಸ್ತಾ ಇನ್ನು ನಮ್ಮ ತಂಡದ ಪರಿಚಯ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಬೇರು ಬೆವರು ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕ ಕಲಾ ಬಳಗದ 15 ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ ನಾವು ಈ ಒಂದು ಜರ್ನಿಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ವಿ. ಕೃಷಿ ವಿಚಾರಗಳಾಗಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ. ಹಸಿರು ಪದಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು 3 ದಿನದಿಂದ ಹಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಾಡುಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಬಹುತೇಕ ಹಾಡುಗಳನ್ನು ಬರೆದಿರೋರು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಶಿರಾಜ್ ಅರತಲೆಯವರು. ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬರೆದಂತಹ ಗೀತೆಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ರಾಗ ಸಂಯೋಜನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಹಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ತಂಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಬಂದು ಹೋದರು. ಇವತ್ತಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ನಾರಾಯಣ ಸಾಮಣ್ಣ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ತಮಟೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಥ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ತಿಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾನಸ ಅವರಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಗಾಯಕಿಯಾಗಿ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ತಿಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಚಲಪತಿ ಅವರಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ತಂಡದ ಗಾಯಕರಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ತಿಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಮತ್ತು ಕೌಸಲ್ಯ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಮತ್ತು ವಾದ್ಯಗಾರರಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೊಪ್ಪಳದಿಂದ ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ಜೊತೆಯಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಚಿದಾನಂದ್ ಅವರು, ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ತಿಳಿಸುತ್ತಾ ನಾನು ಸೌರಪಲ್ಲಿ ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರ್ ತುಂಬು ಹೃದಯದ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳೆಲ್ಲ.
Thank you so much. Your songs have spurred the energies of so many movements in Karnataka. Thank you for being there and continuing to give inspiration. Ellargu swagata, Shubhodayam. We'll begin with a quick question to you all. And this, listen to me carefully as I'm asking this question. I want to get some feedback on how the past 2 days were for you. If you think, and I'm asking you in a 0 to 5 scale, if you thought everything was very good and you have no words to express yourself, keep sitting. Sit in your chair, don't do anything. And if you think something needs to be improved, just clap your hand. You just clap your hand if you think something needs to be improved. Listen to me carefully. Don't just clap thinking that you're giving positive feedback. And thirdly, if you thought that a lot of improvement is needed, just stand up. Stand up quietly. You understood what I said? All the English speakers, you also get this right. If you think everything was very positive in the past 3 days, it's not a 0 to 5 scale, only three grades. If you think everything was positive, just sit quietly in your chair. If you think some improvements need to be made, clap. If you think it was a bad experience the past 2 days, you made a mistake coming here, stand up.
2 ದಿನಗಳ ಅನುಭವ ಏನಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ವಿಧಾನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಏನಂದರೆ ಈಗ ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲನೂ, ಅಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾರ್ಥಕ ಆಯಿತು ಅಥವಾ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಖುಷಿ ಸಿಕ್ತು, ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಏನು ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡೇ ಇರಿ, ಆಯಿತಾ? ಅದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ರೇಟಿಂಗ್ ತೋರಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಎರಡನೇದು, ಇಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸುಧಾರಣೆಗೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಇದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆ ತಟ್ಟಬೇಕು, ಆಯಿತಾ? ಮೂರನೇದು, ಇಲ್ಲ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಸುಧಾರಣೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬ ಇದಿದೆ, ಇದನ್ನು ತುಂಬ ತಿದ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂದಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಿಂತ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಈ 3 ಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವೀಗ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತು ಈ 2 ದಿವಸದ ಅನುಭವ ಸಮ್ಮೇಳನದಲ್ಲಿ. ಅದೇ ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆ ಹೊಡೆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಫೀಡ್ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆ ಹೊಡೆದ್ರೆ ಸುಧಾರಣೆಗೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಇದೆ, ಸುಧಾರಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು, ತಿದ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಇದೆ, ಆಯಿತಾ?
இந்த 2 நாள் நிகழ்ச்சி உங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்சிருந்ததுன்னா அது வந்து நீங்கள் தெரிவிக்கிறதுக்கு இது ஒரு அவகாசமாக அவங்க எடுத்து கொடுக்குறாங்க. அதாவது 2 நாள் உங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்தது, எல்லா ஒரு கம்ப்ளைண்ட் கூட இல்லை, எல்லாமே நல்லபடியாக போயிருந்தது அப்படின்னா உட்காந்தே இருங்க. உங்களுக்கு ஏதாவது இதில்
കഴിഞ്ഞ 2 ദിവസത്തെ പരിപാടി നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ശരിക്കും ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾ അവിടെ തന്നെ ഇരുന്നാൽ മതി, ഒന്നും ചെയ്യണ്ട, അവിടെ തന്നെ ഇരിക്കുക. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കുറച്ച് നമ്മൾ നന്നാകാമായിരുന്നു, പൊതുവെ ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു, പക്ഷേ ചില കാര്യങ്ങളിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് നന്നാകാമായിരുന്നു, നമുക്ക് കൊള്ളാം, നന്നായിരുന്നു എന്ന് തോന്നുകയാണെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾ കൈ തട്ടിയാൽ മതി, അവിടെ ഇരുന്നുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ കൈ അടിച്ചാൽ മതി ഇങ്ങനെ. അതല്ല ഒട്ടും ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടില്ല, എന്തിനാണോ എന്തോ ഞാനിവിടെ വന്നത് എന്ന് തോന്നുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അങ്ങനെയുള്ളവർ മാത്രം എണീച്ച് നിൽക്കുക. 3 രീതിയിലാണ് നമ്മൾ ക്രൈറ്റീരിയ വെച്ചേക്കുന്നത്. എണീച്ച് നിൽക്കുന്നത് ഒട്ടും ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടില്ല എന്നുള്ളവർ, കൈ തട്ടുന്നത് നമുക്ക് ഇനിയും കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഇമ്പ്രൂവ് ചെയ്യാനുണ്ട് എന്ന് തോന്നുന്നവർ, അവിടെ തന്നെ ഇരിക്കുന്നത് ശരിക്കും ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു എന്നുള്ളവർ. മനസ്സിലായില്ലേ?
మీకు ఈ సమ్మేళనంలోకి వచ్చాక మీకు ఏమనిపిస్తోంది అని చెప్పి తెలుసుకోవడానికి ఒక చిన్న ప్రశ్న మిమ్మల్ని. మీకు చాలా బాగుంది, ఇక్కడికి వచ్చినందుకు చాలా ఆనందంగా ఉంది అన్నవాళ్ళు ఎక్కడున్న వాళ్ళు అక్కడే కూర్చుని ఉండండి, కూర్చుని నుంచి లేవద్దు, ఏమీ చేయొద్దు. లేదు వచ్చాం కానీ ఇందులో చాలా ఇంకా సుధారించవలసిన అవసరం ఉంది, చాలా ఇంప్రూవ్మెంట్ అవసరం ఉంది అన్నవాళ్ళు చప్పట్లు కొట్టండి, మీ చేతితోటి చప్పట్లు కొట్టండి, ఉండండి. నేను ఓట్ వేసే సమయం వచ్చినప్పుడు అందరూ ఒకటేసారి ఓటు వేస్తారు, సరేనా? మూడోది, ఇక్కడికి వచ్చాము, ఎందుకు వచ్చామురా బాబు అని అనుకుంటున్నారనుకో, అలాంటి వాళ్ళు నుంచోండి. మాకు ఇక్కడికి వచ్చినందుకు ఏమీ బాగోలేదు అన్నవాళ్ళు మీరు ఎక్కడున్నారో అక్కడే నుంచోండి. మీకు చాలా నచ్చితే కూర్చుంటారు, లేదు ఇందులో కొంత సవరణలు అవసరము, ఇంప్రూవ్మెంట్ అవసరం అన్న వాళ్ళు చప్పట్లు కొడతారు. ఎవరికైతే ఏమీ నచ్చలేదో వాళ్ళు నుంచుంటారు, సరేనా? ఓట్ అందరం ఒకటేసారి వేస్తాము. రెడీ? We'll all vote at the same time. You can start now. I think the ones who are clapping are doing so with understanding. No talking. You only do the 3 things that I said. Later on you can talk. సరే, చప్పట్లు కొట్టిన వాళ్ళకి అర్థం కాలేదన్నాడు బాలు, కాబట్టి ఎవరికి అర్థం కాలేదు? తెలుగు వాళ్ళకా కన్నడిగలుగా? తెలుగు వాళ్ళు చప్పట్లు కొట్టారంటే అర్థము మీకు వచ్చిన దాంట్లో చాలా సవరణలు అవసరము, చాలా ఇంప్రూవ్మెంట్ అవసరం, అంత బాగాలేదు అన్న వాళ్ళు చప్పట్లు కొడుతున్నారు. సో నేను ఓటు వెయ్యండి అనగానే మీరు చప్పట్లు కొట్టారంటే మేమేమనుకుంటామంటే మీకు అంతగా నచ్చలేదు, మీరు నుంచున్నారంటే మీకు అస్సలే నచ్చలేదు అని అనుకుంటాము. మళ్ళీ ఇదొక్కసారి అడుగుతున్నాను, ఎందుకంటే బాలు రిక్వెస్ట్ చేస్తున్నాడు కాబట్టి. యూ కెన్ స్టార్ట్ ఓటింగ్ నౌ. Okay, thank you. We will take your feedback and your feedback. Thank you so much. I now request Sridhar Radhakrishnan, steering group member of ASHA and a very well-known environmental and I would call him a social activist also from Kerala. Successive governments in Kerala have been fought by him for their destructive policies, and he's also been consulted by successive governments for the constructive suggestions that he gives. Sridhar, over to you.
Thank you. And so, welcome. This is a terrific morning. We are still to make it much more better by filling up the seats, but we'll wait for that. I know some of them are at least still having breakfast, and then we are farmers at the end of the day. So we get up very early, but for some of these things we do come in our little leisure because we are very hardworking people, and that is something that I understand. But let us all, let that happen. But we are also in a rush of a time, so I will not go into too much of introduction. Let's listen to the speakers. I hope the translations are going well. See, this is a session, it's a plenary session. We have already had 3 parallel sessions on this. One is to happen in the afternoon, after this. But the session is on farmer-wildlife conflict and mitigation. And for this, we have 4 experts, both in terms of expertise, their academic and practicing backgrounds, and experts in terms of their experiences and their analysis and opinions as well. So I'll straight off go for inviting them, and while they're coming in, I'll continue with a small introduction on what this is about. So let me invite Dr. M.D. Madhusudan. He's a conservation scientist, spent 25 years working in the interface between people and wildlife. Give everybody a good hand for 2 reasons. One, they get encouraged. 2, you wake up a little better. So he co-founded the Nature Conservation Foundation and is contributing towards research and action across India's diverse landscapes, and we'll hear more of him. In official capacity, he has been in the expert committees, including India's National Board of Wildlife. I invite Munir PK. Munir actually substitutes somebody who was supposed to be coming here but is not well. This is Vishnu Das, who leads the Hume Center, and the Hume Center was very famous in Kerala last year for predicting the Mundakai Churalmala landslide even before it happened, and even before the government knew it would happen, even before IMD knew it would happen, they could predict it. So they have a great forecasting system and all that, but they work very closely with human-wildlife conflict. He's a researcher working in the Wayanad landscapes and focusing on human-elephant interactions and landscape-level understanding of coexistence. And he's associated with Hume, but he's currently pursuing PhD at the Transdisciplinary University in Bangalore, and we expect a slide presentation from him, which also means a lot of elephants, right? Yeah. So next in my panel is Malavika Solanki. Malavika is the founder of Swayam, a non-profit registered in 2011. She's very much a home person here. And she has a demonstration site in Illachetty village. She holds a master's in ecology and was a research scholar at the Indian Institute of Science, certified permaculture practitioner, designer, educator, and consultant. And she will bring to this panel a personal and her experiences on how she manages human-animal conflict in her own life and experience. Interestingly, she will also use a short 6-minute video in her talk. So this thing I'm saying also for the ones organizing the videos and the presentations. And lastly, Dr. Vipin Chowdhury. Vipin Chowdhury is a national coordinator and principal scientist of the All India Network Project on Vertebrate Pests, which literally means animal conflict pests. And he is from the ICAR, and he's at the National Coordinating Unit in CAZRI at Jodhpur. And he would be bringing to the panel the various steps and schemes that government has and actions that government has taken on this particular matter. So we have a really, really, you know, you think so? Okay, okay, we'll do that. Yeah, I'll announce that. Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Madhu, you know, feels that he should. I mean, I was going to invite Madhu Madhusudan in the first, but he feels that he is somebody who can help in building a consolidation of the various things that is said. So I think I'll take that. So which also means that there's a little role that I'll have to do for 5 minutes on this. See, and I also want to, you know, the ones organizing the logistics of this presentations, etc. Madhu doesn't have a presentation, so don't worry. The first presentation will be Munir, but that's after I called. See, the farmer-wildlife conflict, if you all know, in your bags, there is a QR code. And in the QR code, if you click on the QR code, you will get the notes of the meetings, of the various issues that we are talking about. One of them is about the farmer and wildlife conflict issue. This is a position that we have taken. This is a position paper on ASHA's position on farmer-wildlife conflict, and it has been done considering a lot of work that is already done in the country and a lot of experiences of farmer organizations and farmers. Some of the, you know, and what do we come out of? So I would encourage that all of you at some point, if you've not looked at it, to seriously take a read of that you know, document, because we are literally saying, and this is, I'm coming to the introduction of the issue. We all know the human-wildlife conflict. We all know, and I'm not repeating certain things. I'm not going to talk about stories of it. We all know that this is an issue which has hit every place in India. While we think it's happening in the Nagarhole or the Bandipur or the Mudumalai sanctuaries or the Mutanga sanctuaries in Kerala, because we are living there, you go to Himachal Pradesh, they have issues there. You go to Madhya Pradesh, you have issues there. So everywhere there are wildlife conflicts with human beings. And there are hundreds, so many different reasons for it, and we are still grappling with this. But in most cases, we are seeing that the farmers are left to the lurch. They are facing it firsthand, on the front, literally like a battlefield, unfortunately. And these are two things that shouldn't have been a battle, because these are species that have coexisted for centuries. And yet we are having a serious conflict in the past 20, 30 years. It's actually increased in most places. One of the big reasons, obviously, is the entry of development into these places, you know, pristine, conserved places, and they have been disturbed. But there are other reasons, various reasons which we will listen to, including climate change. So we will go through all this, but one thing that we have recognized as ASHA is that this is no more, you know, just episodic in the sense that one here, one there. It's become structural, it's become chronic, it has various reasons. And it's not just about the big animals of elephants and deer, tigers. It's about even the small animals, large numbers, continuous impact, huge losses to farmers, starting from death to, you know, property losses, to getting injured, to crop losses, to not being able to do cultivation at all, to having abandoned farming, to even, you know, things like psychological trauma. You are not able to live in that place. You are not able to walk up in the fields, even daytime. And that is the situation in which this is there. And that is why ASHA took up this as a major concern. Of the 4 concerns that we are talking about in this Kisan Swaraj Sammelan, this became an important concern, perhaps for the first time in ASHA's, you know, history. And we are looking at it as to how do we approach the problem. And that is what we will try and see whether we can reach some conclusion. Okay. And we will be able to reach certain conclusions which we can take forward as a campaign with the government, along with all of you, in all the regions. That's the whole idea of putting this as a concern in ASHA's, you know, Sammelan. I just want to also check whether all of you who are using the translation services is getting the translation. Translation இருக்கிறவங்க யூஸ் பண்றவங்களுக்கு டிரான்ஸ்லேஷன் கிடைக்குதா, அது கரெக்டாக கிடைக்குதா, அது கொஞ்சம் பாருங்க. 2 മലയാളത്തിലും ട്രാൻസ്ലേഷൻ ആവശ്യം ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നവർ അത് ശരിയായിട്ട് ട്രാൻസ്ലേഷൻ കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ടോ എന്നൊന്ന് വെരിഫൈ ചെയ്യാമോ? യു ആർ ഗെറ്റിംഗ്? ഓക്കെ, ഫൈൻ. Okay, thank you. That is a good news. So let me now get into the thing. What we conclude like that, I will come back as soon as we finish this. So let me first invite Munir. Yeah, Munir to lay the foundation of this session. Yeah, Munir. Because of your presentation, if you want, you can also move to that side. Do you want to see the presentation? You can move to that side. Yeah. And Munir's presentation.
Good morning, all. Thanks, Sridhar, to give a chance to present here, and especially to ASHA. Directly to the topic. To speak about the human-animal interactions is a vast subject, I know. It is not easy to compress something so layered and complex into a few minutes. So here mostly I'm focusing on elephants. That's my study subject of, and mainly focusing on elephants and the landscapes of Wayanad. Let me begin with this first image itself. This photograph is from my own village. You can see differently abled farmer riding on his modified scooter and to sell milk to the society. And just beside the road, elephants are grazing and all. What do we see here? Is this is a conflict or is this is a coexistence? Each of us may interpret these scenes differently. Our narratives may be differ. Some may see danger, some may see resilience, some may see normal life in Wayanad. Before I move directly into the issues of conflict and agriculture, topic, I want to pause here. I want to begin with the landscape itself, the Wayanad, where I was born and brought up, because without understanding the landscape, its history, its people, its forests, its movements, we cannot fully understand what we call conflict. Let's get Wayanad is not districts only. It's a biodiversity hotspot. It forms a vital part of the Western Ghats and the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Ecologically, it is one of the most important elephant landscapes in South India. But at the same time, it is not an untouched forest. It is a mosaic of forests, agricultural lands, plantations, villages, towns, all interwoven protected areas like the Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary, North and South Wayanad Forest Divisions are not isolated blocks. They intersect directly with human-dominated landscapes. So encounters between human and the elephants are frequent, so frequent. This shared landscape is not new actually. From this slide itself, on the top, we can see the Edekal caves, rock engravings, dating back to around 6,000 years. This tells us something important. Humans and elephants have shared this landscape for thousands of years. So what we are witnessing today is not a new relationship. It is an old relationship, but one that is being reshaped by modern political, agricultural, and ecological changes. And that is where my discussions moves next. To understand the present situations, we also need to look at history. Wayanad has many rulers. In the 14th century itself, it was under the Veda kingdom, a traditional or a tribal community. They ruled Wayanad. At that time, the land was not just property. It was part of life and culture. Later, many people came to Wayanad because of its spices and the trade routes. Paishiraja from the Kottayam royal family introduced an organized land tax system. Actually, that was turning point. Land started to be measured and taxed. Then came Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan, and then the British. Each period changed the landscapes in some way. Forests slowly become resources to extract. Timbers was taken, land was cleared, agriculture expanded. After independence also, the changes continued. Forests were converted into plantations. Monoculture crops increased. Large amounts of bamboos were cut for the paper industry. You may hear about the Mavur Golio Rains factory. But the bamboo is also an important food for the elephant. So when we see elephants entering farms today, it is not something sudden. The landscape has been shaped and reshaped for centuries. The elephants are moving in a land that has been continuously changing around them, and that change is still happening. Next slide. Now if you look at the present, where do we see elephants? Not just inside dense forests. Today, elephants are moving through modified landscapes. We see them in evergreen forests, yes, but also in degraded forest patches. We see them in plantations. Next slide. And one more. Everywhere we can see the elephants. They are not staying only inside protected areas. They are using whatever landscape is available: forest edges, agricultural fields, river banks, plantations, estates, etc. This tells us something important. Elephants are adapting to change. They are learning to move through human-dominated spaces. They are adjusting their behavior to survive in landscapes that is no longer continuous forest. So the question is not just why elephants are coming out. The bigger question is, how has the landscape changed in such a way that elephants are now everywhere within it? They are not outside the system actually. They are inside the same shared landscape that we are part of it. Also, I want to speak about the ecosystem health. As you may know about the ecosystems in the forest, inside the things like that, the invasive species and all. Most of the, around 40% of the Wayanad wildlife sanctuary is already covered with invasive species now. Yesterday also, in the parallel discussions, we already discussed about the food availability of the elephants inside the forest and all. We asked why they are come out. Is there enough food inside nowadays? But now it has spread widely in Wayanad. The Senna spectabilis, it's covered most of the areas. Nowadays the elephants are eating the seeds of the invasive species Senna spectabilis. We can get it in the dung of the elephants also. Nachiket, could you please show the video? From the dung itself, we can get lots of seeds of the invasive species. We using crores of rupees to for the restoration works and all. But the elephants also spreading the invasive species all over the places. On paper, the forest cover may be increasing every year. Statistics may show positive numbers, but we need to ask deeper questions. What is the quality of our forest? Is it healthy, diverse forest that can support wildlife? Or it is a forest in name, but dominated by invasive species? So, when we talk about the elephants' movement and conflict, we also need to look at what is happening inside the forest itself, because the issue is not just how much forest we have, but what kind of forest we have. Next slide. We also need to understand the nature of Wayanad boundaries. The boundary between forest and farmlands is not very clear. On the map, we can draw a line, but on the ground, it is almost invisible. Farms, forest patches, plantations, and settlements are all mixed together. So, the invasive species or the ecosystem health is the only concern about the conflict? No. Let me give one simple example. During the monsoon season, there is actually more food available inside the forest. Water is abundant, vegetation is fresh. But that is also the season of jackfruit, mango, and paddy in the farms. These crops are highly attractive to elephants. So even when food is available inside the forest, elephants move towards agricultural land. And during this time, conflict incidence often increases, sometimes more than in the dry season. So it is not just about scarcity inside the forest. It is also about attractions outside the forest. And over the years, land use patterns have changed a lot. If you look at the map, you can clearly see the fragmentation. Could you move the next slide? Next. The land use patterns already have changed more. forest patches broken into smaller pieces, more roads, more settlements, more plantations. So elephants are moving through landscapes that is increasingly fragmented, but still connected enough for them to pass through. That is why the boundary is not just ecological, it is a social and economic, and that is where negotiation begins. Next slide. Just while seeing the camera trap images, you just look on the time, just 8:28. Next slide. Play the video. Next. Next slide. Only 1 minute difference. There's one person crossing through the same area. If you see these images or videos, you will notice something very simple. The same path is being used by both elephants and humans. There is only a difference of few seconds, just a few seconds earlier or later. That is the difference between a safe crossing and a serious casualty. This is how people live in Wayanad. These encounters are not always dramatic. Many of them are routine. People adjust their timing. They listen for sounds. They watch for signs. They wait. Elephants also adjust their movement. This is daily negotiation. Every day, people and elephants are sharing the same roads, the same paths, the same water sources, sometimes peacefully, sometimes with tension. Coexistence here is not an ideal concept. It is a practical reality managed moment by moment, and sometimes survival depends on just a few seconds. Next slide. And today, we are not always seeing single elephants moving alone. Increasingly, we see groups of tuskers moving together. Male group formation is not something completely new. It was always existed to some extent, but now we are seeing it more frequently. When tuskers move together, they seem to take advantages of being in groups. It gives them confidence. It makes it easier to enter farms, break fences, and access crops. It also makes it more difficult for people and drive them away. This tells us something important. Can you play the video, Nachikeet? The elephants are not just reacting randomly. They are learning, they are adapting, and they are responding to the pressure and opportunities in the landscape. When agriculture provides high energy of food, when fences are weak, when pathways are predictable, behavior slowly changes. So conflict is not only about space, it is also about learning, memory, and strategy. Elephants are adjusting to us, and we are struggling to adjusting to them. Next slide. Next. And another important change, already we discussed about the behavioral shift of the animals. Earlier, light, fire, loud sounds, all these were enough to drive elephants away. People used torches, crackers, drums, and elephants would retreat. But now, in many places, that fear is reducing. In this picture itself, we can see one person, one farmer just standing in front of the elephants with a fire. But the elephants continue to eat the rice crops. It is not immediately running away. This is something seriously. Elephants are getting used to these methods. They are becoming habituated. What once worked as a deterrent is not longer effective. This makes the situations more risky for both people and elephants. Because when fear reduces, proximity increases. And when proximity increases, the chances of injury or death also increases. So this is not just about crop loss. It is about changing behavior on both sides. Next slide. Next. And these are the areas. Okay. And these are the areas already mapped where is the high intensity of the human-elephant conflict. Actually, it is only near the only mapped near the Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary and all. Next slide. Now, if you think from the farmer's side, the situation is very difficult. For them, this is not just an ecological discussion, it is a daily burden. During my post-graduation, I did a study to understand how much additional cost farmers are facing because of conflict prevention. Next slide. What I found was significant, and about 31% of the total agricultural expenses were additional to cost, only for conflict prevention. This includes fencing, night guarding, labor, repairs, firecrackers, lights, and constant monitoring. So farmers are not only losing crops, they are spending extra money, extra time, and extra energy just to protect what they grow. When we speak about coexistence, we must also recognize this economic pressure, because for many small farmers, this burden directly affects their livelihood and dignity. So conflict is not just about elephants entering the farms, it is all about the invisible cost carried out by people. Next slide. Next slide. Over the years, most of the mitigation methods we used have been based on trial and error. We build the electric fences, they break them. We dig trenches, they cross them. And slowly, elephants get used to all the mitigation strategies we use there. Every time we introduce a new structure, they learn how to overcome it. Now we are entering the era of AI, camera systems, early warning systems, predictive models. These technologies may give short-term relief. They may help us respond faster, but technology alone is not the final answer. Elephants are highly intelligent and adaptive animals. They learn from experiences. They remember. They adjust. If the landscapes remain fragmented, if attractive crops remain unprotected, if forests continue to degrade, technology may only delay in problems. At the same time, there is something more powerful than technology, the participatory management. When farmers are involved, when local communities contribute to manpower, when traditional knowledge, local observation, and shared responsibility as part of the system, mitigation becomes stronger. Local people understand elephant movement patterns. They know seasonal behavior. They know safe timing and the risky zones. So the future may not be only about artificial intelligence. It may be about human intelligence, working together with the ecological understanding, because in the end, coexistence cannot be underscored through technology. It has to be built collectively. Next slide. Next slide. Yes, sir. I will stop here. Just today, we often hear with wildlife populations, and also we have a strong recommendation to separate the forest and the farmlands with using some mitigations and all. This is our study from my own villages itself. Along the mitigations where we use, it may be the hanging fences or the trenches. So all these areas, there is some way to cross for the elephants, and also the peoples also used to cross for their daily routines as basis for grazing for the cattle or for firewood or any other things. So the separation is not about a solution at all. Next slide. And also saying about the electrocution death of the elephants itself. From the 2024 to 25, for a 1 year period itself, we already lost around 6 male elephants in our areas. Next slide. If we are saying the elephant population is going increased, but the statistics and the models saying that if the population growth is going like this, it will decline within the 30 years of intervals itself. So to understand the ecological and social perspective of the conflict situations only will lead to a solutions. Actually, we don't have a single solution to prevent or reduce the conflict. We can only reduce the casualties with understanding the concept of what we learned from the landscapes and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Munir, for keeping time in some absence. Just 1-2 sentences on this. One of the key learnings from what he presented is this, that right now we have a huge drive on AIs and all sorts of things to try and solve the problem. I'm not saying no to it. Probably that will all augment what we want to do to save farms from wildlife. But what is essential is this whole idea, question of traditions and what are the methods we used to do. And perhaps the situation is much more serious. So we may have to augment it with all the technology, but it does not substitute the natural intelligence question, the question of how we use indigenous methods, how we use traditional methods, how we use human force itself. Yesterday, in all these three discussions that we were having, a lot of women farmers and men farmers were actually telling us that works better when they are on the field more time, when they are on the field, challenging these, chasing them away, and over the time they're seeing, solutions coming up or some sort of reprieve coming. So I think that's something that needs to be considered seriously as a policy question, because it is actually less and less support is going towards such human resource-based mitigation methods, and more money is actually going into non-human technology-based mitigation methods. So that's something that I just want to flag. Malavika, please. See, Malavika would talk initially, and when she asks for the video, please put it. Yeah.
Namaste. My name is Malvika, and I live on a farm in a village called Yelachatti, which is on the fringes of the Bandipur National Park and the Tiger Reserve. The farm is called the Open Shell Farm. It's a demonstration site and a learning center for regenerative design using permaculture and agroecology. We are living on the fringes of the forest, so obviously, we have all the challenges that everyone's facing in relation to managing land, farmland, and the human-animal conflict. We have elephants, wild boars, tigers, leopards, wild boars, hares, peacocks, all of that. And in the past, people have coexisted in a manner where it wasn't such a huge challenge, which today is leading to, abandoned farmlands. People have stopped farming, and one of the main causes has been human-animal conflict. So, of course, in addition to that, we have the changing weather patterns, high input costs, loss of soil fertility, a lot of other things that are the challenges that everyone else is facing. But human-animal conflict on the fringes of the forest land has been at the forefront. We started a project called the 1,000 Tree Project, and this was in response to the drought of 2016. There was a drought in the Gundlupet region, and this Gram Panchayat, Mangala Gram Panchayat, where we actually work, saw about 70 to 80% of the livestock dead because of starvation. The government aid that came very late, and it was substandard. So the farmers were totally distraught. And all my conversations with my neighbors, Nagappa and Mahadevappa, and the ones that are surrounding Open Shell Farm, we figured that there are several challenges that are leading to livestock death. Even in the past, Chamarajanagar district is known to be a drought-prone district, and droughts are not really uncommon. But people did manage, and then, they could tide through those difficult situations. Okay. Yeah. So what was it that was missing? The missing link was, there was always something called as Bilu. There was always a piece of land in the farmland which was available for wilderness. There were some trees, there were some pockets of, wildernesses that was available for people to harvest, and, like perennial fodder, tree fodder, there were figs, there were banyan trees, there was Nelia dubia, there were so many other species that were easily and readily available to overcome this dry period, which was missing. So earlier there were joint families, and there's land fragmentation, the landscape was divided, and farmers were,
just owning maybe 1-2 acres of land, and then there was very little of land that was available for cropping, so they destroyed the bunds, they destroyed the trees, So this was missing. The tree system from the landscape was missing, which was a fallback for people to, go back to when there was a drought situation. So, and then of course many other challenges. I'm going to keep this limited to human-animal conflict and the interventions that we, had with the farmers. So we figured that bringing back tree systems would be one of the ways to prevent a recurrence of something like this. So how do we go about, planting trees? Now,
Of course, fencing was the first thing that they all came up with. Okay, we need some kind of a solar fencing to be able to kind of offer protection to the tree saplings from the cattle and wildlife. And we said, okay, let's come out with a holistic design strategy where while we are offering fencing, now we all know that the fencing, solar fencing costs are high, and if farmers are owning small acreages, it can really be, exorbitant. And the Forest Department offers 50% subsidy, which is still too high for a small farmer to be able to afford. And even that requires so many visits to the Forest Department, and and it's actually for the benefit of the ones who can afford the fencing costs. It's not really for the farmers. So that's another discussion. But so we said, okay, how do we minimize? There's so many challenges that we had to look at. One is reducing the fencing costs. Second, night vigil, watching the crops at night, managing the fences. So if there are farmers who are owning small holdings, it's very difficult for them to stay up for the entire period of the crop, especially when they're ready to harvest. So how do we kind of overcome these challenges? So what we came to was, how can we group the farmers together in a way where the input cost is reduced, there is shared ownership, there's shared responsibility, and also there is a community night vigil till the trees grow up and, they are at a stage where, we don't have to worry so much. So we set out certain guidelines. The farmers had to agree to certain guidelines. Some of them being, the four main being, one is to shift from chemical to non-chemical farming, to implement water harvesting structures on their lands, depending on the land, it was something that we designed later. I won't go into the details of that. And plant at least 100 trees per acre on the landscape. This was to ensure food, fodder, and livelihood security for them. Of course, the other benefits of this system was to build soil fertility, to enhance water infiltration, to create habitat, increase biodiversity, and all of that. So the farmers had to, this was mainly for farmers who were owning less than 5 acres of land each. So there had to be a minimum of 4 number of farmers who would come together. They had to find their own partners and collectively own at least 10 acres of land, contiguous 10 acres of land. And once they formed the groups, it could be more than 10 acres, it could be up to 50 acres, it did not matter. It could be more than 4 farmers, but this was the minimum requirement. And they came together as a group, and we raised funds to provide for the 75% of the fencing costs. The farmers had to put in 25%, we needed their skin in the game. We wanted to ensure that the farmers were serious. So they put in 25% of the fencing costs. Now this was the first step, and the farmers had to provide labor. In the sense, we also wanted to build capacity within the farmers where they learn how to install the fencing, they learn how to fix it, they learn how to manage it. So that reduces, the time, waiting time when they have to refix the fences or repair, Also building strength within the community to be able to install many such fences around, in the region. So it was also a local enterprise. Now, that was the fencing part. Then the second part was, in terms of selection of tree species, there was combination of tree species that was selected, which is not very attractive for wildlife. And the way they were planted was, farmers don't want to plant trees in their farmland. Yesterday I was having a conversation in one of the parallel sessions on this, as we are continuing to do the same thing, but we're expecting different results. Now, why not shift from growing annual crops? Do that, but then limit them in such a manner that we are also parallelly, building our tree systems, building perennial systems. And I think it's important for us to also shift our understanding from... Yeah. So he's giving me indication as to the time limit, so I'll have to rush up. Yeah, so what we did was boundary planting. Okay, farmers want to continue to do crops, so we said we'll plant along the boundaries. And in the boundaries, we staggered the tree planting and planted them in rows, so to create a visual barrier for wildlife. These are fast-growing species, some of them that are, like say, we have citrus, we have soap nuts, we have, silver oak. Of course, there's, again, certain species are controversial depending on where they're located in the forest. How close they are to the forest, we would select the species. And at the same time, also to study the patterns of the elephants. If the elephant's broken in today, it's important to ensure that, they stay vigilant and kind of watch the pattern and ensure that, it doesn't repeat. I'm sharing stories from my own experiences at Open Shell Farm. I'll also share a video which will actually showcase the work that we've done during one of our planting events. Very recently, we have introduced bees at Open Shell Farm, which is a demonstration site. And we have about 25 bee boxes. It's a 4.5 acres land. And we're also trying to see if this is going to, in some way help. And ironically, the elephant, we had a recent break-in, and it came from the area which it never came before, because the other areas had bee boxes. So I don't know. We're still wondering, if that's one of the reasons. But what I want to say is there's no silver bullet. There's no permanent solution to any of this. Like Mr. Munir was speaking about, how elephants are also constantly evolving and they're also strategizing. It's somewhere for us to find some ways of coexistence, and this project is aiming more towards ensuring that the trees are up, maybe 4, 5, 6 years. We manage them in such a way that once they go up, you don't have to really keep, stressed out about, how do you manage your, farmlands with this ongoing conflict. So I'd like you to play the video. This is where the farmers have come together, and it's a small documentary on the project that we're doing. Can you play the video, please? Yeah.
This landscape is again forest. It faces all the human-animal conflict, and the farm we are standing in is an outcome of that. It also represents the degradation we've seen through our agricultural practices over thousands of years, and especially over the last few decades.
It's on the plateau that is coming down from the mountain side, so there has been a lot of erosion because it's also a bit rocky soil. So you can see that through the years, a lot of the topsoil has gone.
I realized that I was not a person who would continue to live in the city, and that life was definitely not attractive for me. I just wanted to, be on a piece of land. And when I stopped pushing for it, things fell in place, and I ended up being on this land.
ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ಫುಲ್ ಖಾಲಿ ಖಾಲಿ ಇತ್ತು. ಅವರು ಬಂದು ಗಿಡಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ, ನಾವು ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ ಈ ಥರ ಅಂತ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು. ಒಂದು ದಿನಗೆ 3 ಗಿಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾಯಿದ್ವು. ನಾವೇನೋ ಬರುತ್ತಾ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಡೌಟ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾಯಿದ್ವು. ಅದು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬಂತು.
ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೇಳಿದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಆಗ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಅನುಕೂಲ ಆಯ್ತಾ, ಆ ಗಿಡಗಳಿಗೂ ಅನುಕೂಲ ಆಗಂತ ಪೊಸಿಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು.
ಕೃಷಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಈ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಒಂಥರ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಈ ಕೃಷಿ. ಮರಗಳ ಆಧಾರಿತ ಕೃಷಿ. ನಂತರ ಇದು ಪರ್ಮಕಲ್ಚರ್, ತುಂಡು ಬೇಸಾಯಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿವಿಧ ರೀತಿಯ ಬೆಳೆಗಳನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆಯಬೇಕು.
Permaculture in that sense is like it's not a methodology, it's a design science. The principles can be applied to any context.
ಈ ಪೇಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಈಗ ಪೇಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಗೋವರೆಗೆ ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳ ಕಾರ್ಖಾನೆಗಳು, ಆನ ಹಂದಿ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗೋಗಿದೆ. ಆಗಿನ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ ಪೊಸಿಷನ್.
ನಮಗೆ ಸೋಲಾರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇದೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮಾರು ಸೋಲಾರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ವ್ಯವಸಾಯ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ.
So right now what we're seeing here is, a project of social permaculture. So this is a collective of farmers who are coming together and tying up all their lands to implement water harvesting strategies.
ಫಸ್ಟು ನಾವು ಇದು ಟ್ರೈನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಅದು ನೀರು ಯಾವ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಆ ದಿಕ್ಕಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಟ್ರೈನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತೀವಿ.
ಬಿದ್ದಂಥ ನೀರು ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು, ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಅದು ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಹೋಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಸಿಗ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ನೀರನ್ನ ಕುಯ್ದು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನೀರು ನಮಗೆ ಶೇಖರಣೆಗೆ ಭೂಮಿ ಉತ್ಕೃಷ್ಟವಾಗುತ್ತೆ.
And the second step is to clean up the space, to build a vegetative system. And we're starting off with trees, and most of these trees are nurse species, pioneer species, and forest timber and forest species.
So the agroforestry is, I would say, one of the pioneer working systems for permaculture, because it ultimately has to do with land sort of remediation.
Almost 1,000 saplings plant ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆಯಿಂದ. It has a very potential ಇದೆ. I think we're slowly trying to bring it closer to its own potential.
ಇದು ಆಮ್ಲಜನಕ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅರಣ್ಯಗಳ ಸಂತತಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮಳೆ ಬೀರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಂತರ್ಜಲ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮಣ್ಣಿನ ಸವಕಳಿ ತಪ್ಪುತ್ತೆ.
You see the difference in the landscape in the forest and here, and it's very evident that nature has taken a backseat here. So, can you reimagine agroecology in sync with the forest? So, this is a great experiment to do.
ಇದು ಹೊಸ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಸುಮಾರು ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ ಇದೇ ಇದ್ದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನಮ್ಮ ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಡೈವರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಜನಗಳಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ರೂಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಅನುಕೂಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
But we still have a traditional system and it's still, I think, part of the society, so it wouldn't take long to go back.
The uniqueness of this project is not about just reforesting the land, it's about also a community regeneration. Yes, ecological regeneration and ecology is not devoid of the community. It's an inclusive process that we're using. So we're looking at the kind of ripple effect, where we started with a few farmers and then they're teaching other farmers and then there are more and more, and it has the potential of becoming exponential.
ಒಂಥರ ಖುಷಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಹೇಗೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ we are so individual in every way. So at least in some aspects ನಾವು ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೈ ಜೋಡಿಸಿ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ I think that is where we hope that we can still do bigger things.
ನಾವು ತುಂಬ ಕಡೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಶುರು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಒಂಥರ ಒಂದು ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಕಲಿಯಕೊಂಡು ವೇದಿಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಈ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ.
My focus is on transforming the landscape, and in the process, people getting transformed. So it's an inclusive approach. The hope is that this land is going to be way above all our living systems.
Thank you, Malavika. That was quite inspiring. Whenever you see hope, in the work that we do, and there's such a lot of hope that has already come out from this Sammelan, it's always very nice. I would now like to invite, without wasting more time, Vipin Chaudhary, Dr. Vipin Chaudhary. He has a presentation.
Thank you, sir. At the outset, I wish to thank organizer for giving me the platform just to showcase our work. Well, I am working in a government organization, and we are working on the management aspect of these wild herbivores. Rather, I call it as a herbivore because there is a very disparity between the word human-animal wildlife conflict, because that subject goes to the forestry and environment. And whenever we go and whenever we just share our techniques to those people, and when we ask them that you just go for the compensation and all those aspects, they used to say that this is the subject belongs to forestry, not to agriculture. So just to keep my domain in the agriculture, I start my presentation on human higher vertebrate conflicts in agriculture, landscape and mitigation. Next, please. Well, here just I wish to say that the animals which are responsible for creating trouble in the farmland, I confined to the farmland only, not the accidental injuries or any carnivorous activity or like that. So if you look at that animal which are responsible for the damage in the farmland, mainly belongs to the vertebrate group. Among them, the birds are there, rodents are there. We had a very pioneering work on the birds and rodent because we are working since last about 30 years on birds and rodents. And this new aspect has been recently added to us just 5 or 7 years back, in which we are now dealing with the higher animals also, especially nilgai, monkey, wild boar, and of course some of these animals which, if they are trouble in any of the region, like antelope, blackbug, flying fox, then our monkeys. So in that way we are working. Next, please. So if you look that the number of species, the problem species we are in the farmland, they are very handful. Rodents, of course, we are having 101 species, but only 10 or 12 are the real menace to the agricultural land. And birds, we are having 1,300 species, only 63 are the pest. And likewise, antelopes, only 3, deer 1, elephant 1, wild boar 1. So in that way, they are, and we are having a very handful pest, but their impact is very huge. Next, please. Yeah, that is good. So now the question arises that what is the reason that these are menace to our cropland? So obviously the reason which is quoted time and again, that expansion of the agriculture, intensification of the agriculture, then the monocultures, they are the main reason, because the monocultures are very much liked by these animals, and these are, because of that they are the menace. Then of course our population is expanding, so we require more area for our agriculture. But I just tell you the fact, when I started my career in 1997, we were told that our area under cultivation is 141 million hectares. And presently also we are quoting the same. That means the area is not increasing, then how this statement is valid, I don't know. Then of course for the demand of agriculture, and I think we are having some ruling that we allow our people to act or to go do some activity in the forest area, so they are going for the cultivation inside the area, so this is also one of the reasons. And the foremost, which is never discussed, that depleting resources inside the forest area. The reason is that we are at the crossroad. The agriculture people used to say that the forest area is not conducive for the wild animals, that's why they are coming out. But at the same time, the forest people blame us outside of the invasive species, I think they were never be the part of our chain, but still we are protecting those species. The example is white boar. Why we are protecting white boar? We don't know. White boar is not playing any role in any of the cycle or any of the chain. Still we are protecting. So that's thing I wish the organizers that to please mention a special mention to such kind of thing. That when a species is not endemic and not playing a role, then why it has been protected under the Wildlife Act, which is a menace to our farmer. Next, please. So, long back in 2014, there was a question in the parliament that whether we are doing any research on our higher animals which are posing threat to our farmers. So the answer was no. So at that time, the ASHA took this initiative and they delineate some of the constraints or some of the challenges which were there. And the challenges were the deficit in the management, the technology, the infrastructure, the collaboration. So these are some of the challenges which I have delineated here. And because just to address these challenges, in 2014, a new scheme has been initiated by the Government of India, next week, which is called All India Network Project on the Vertebrate Pest Management. We were having these objectives, that reduction in the man-animal conflict in the agriculture landscape, then spatial distribution pattern of the vertebrate and assess crop damage, and development of the cost-effective and eco-friendly technologies for the management of the animals. Next, please. So now, presently, we are concentrating on 4 or 5 animals because we are very few in number. Just I want to give the organization setup of this project. The headquarters is at Kali, Jodhpur, and I am the alone scientist working there. I am the coordinator. Under me, 9 centers are there in Telangana, Andhra, Karnataka, then of course in NEH and in Gujarat. And here we are having the centers, then we are having 2 or 3 volunteer centers in Banda at UP, then 1 center in the MP, 1 in the Solan. So these centers are working on this. Just I am giving you these because if you want any help or any kind of technical know-how, you can contact these centers. In Karnataka, we are having 1 center at US Bangalore. So you can contact at US Bangalore. So why the reason these animals are the problem? Of course, habitat degradation, then predatory pests is also less, and of course we are having the higher adaptability of these species. These species are at the higher strata. That means you can categorize them after human being. So their mental level is very high. Whatever the technology you apply to restrain them from going to any area, they adapt to that in a very few, in a very less period of the time. Next. So we are working majorly on the biology and population of the pest species, ecology of the species which is physically with its physical and biotic environment, and understanding the relationship of the pest species to land use, management practice and other human activities. So these are some of the ecological aspects which are necessary just to understand the pest behavior. And on the backdrop of these ecological aspects, we usually frame our technology. But here I just want to clarify you that overnight it is not possible to develop a technology which is very viable and you can restrain them. So what we do that our farmers are very intelligent, and I used to say that they are the real scientists. So we get their know-how and we validate scientifically those know-how, and if they are working, then we go for a multi-locational trial and then release those technology in the domain. Next, please. So just to tell you the figure, of course, it is a cause of concern. We are having a very long experience in rodent and bird, and we are come out with this conservative figure. Rodents cause 15% damage and bird 9%. But whatever the damage caused by our higher animals, it is the area specific damage, because still we don't have a pan-India picture. It requires a lot of labor, and we require a lot of manpower to give a all India. But through some modeling and extrapolation, we have come up that a conservative estimate of 30% is there, which one around about 4 or 5 seconds. Again, there is so just they give the judge. This is not a continuous time. So it is a very well designed equipment which charged by the solar energy. So round the clock you are having the energy in your fence. Then next please. Next please. Next. So these are some of the photographs that show that how our technologies are working. Next please. These are some of the biological fencing which we can use around the main crop. Next please. These are the repellents, they are working well against whiteboard and our monkey and nail guy. Next please. These are some of the indigenous technologies that we are using, the professionals that we are using, the spokes and dogs and all that. Next please. These are some of the legal things that our act, earlier it was having a window of vermin. Now when it has been revised in 2022, that vermin window is not there. Then how we can get an animal which becomes a problem vermin? I don't know. If somebody throw light in this house, then it is good. Next please. So here just I want to see this innovation. It is called bioacoustic. What we did that every animal communicate in one or other way. If they are in a regular way, they communicate in a regular way. If they are in distress, they give distress call. If some problem is there, they give alarm call. Next please. So we just record these calls, and also along with that we have got predatory call, and then we sequence these calls. Next please. These are such calls which we usually record, and they are original calls, and not downloaded from any net or anything. Next please. So here what we do, sir, we sequence these calls. In that way you are seeing the sequence. The white portion is the pause. So we sequence all the calls, then a call will go up, then there is a pause again, second call will go up. And it is randomized. Never a similar sequence you will get. It is a randomized call. Again and again it will change. And second thing is that it is IoT based. That means a farmer sitting at home can just on this device, and again at the home they keep off this here. So we just suggest that during critical period you blow these sounds just to avoid the acclimatization. Next please. So this is this thing which we have developed, and it is working well, sir, in the Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala. We are having a very good result out of this. Next please. So these are some equipment we have developed and we can for the monkey. Next please. Then this is solar fencing. Next please. And lastly, sir, because these earlier which I have shown, those are the fixed in the field itself. But the farmer wants that we want some portable things. So sir, we have developed this portable device. So thank you very much, sir. This is all about from us. Thank you for giving me the time.
Good, amazing.
Thanks.
Really, thank you for this.
Thanks.
That was, I think, where is my switching on? It's not working. It's not working. Okay. That was an amazing presentation. See, there are two things I want to, sort of highlight in this. I mean, obviously the center, I mean, I must confess that I was totally ignorant of the center. Then I later realized that, I later realized that a couple of papers that they have published, I did read. But I never realized that there was one solid center like this, and then they had sub-centers and all that. And then there was a wonderful scientist also, trying to look at this issue. That should really help us. I'm sure all of us got a big picture of what's happening. But Vipin sir, there is one small, issue here, Dr. Vipin. There's one small question here is that we are more into organic farming and natural farming, and Government of India is also pushing for natural farming. So some of the chemical, and he's only put one or two of them, so that is probably not the way we would approach. But the number of biological solutions and non-chemical solutions, I'm sure, have a great use for us. The other thing I want to highlight, just to position this is, Dr. Vipin sent me a WhatsApp message, and I earlier talked about the note that we have made, no? So I will, with your permission, Dr. Vipin, I'll read the WhatsApp you have sent to me, please. It shows how humble that man is, in spite of being an ICR, not in spite of being an ICR scientist, being a scientist, he said, Dr. Sridhar, good morning. Due to some preoccupation, he couldn't read the write-up, but then when he read it, I've gone through the write-up, nicely crafted, with almost all the issues in human-wildlife conflict in agricultural landscapes given due consideration. If this responsibility was given to me, I may fail to provide such a note. The limitations we usually face in receiving the issues, in raising the issues, you have raised all those issues. If it works, I feel obliged and relieved that the work for which I am working, because he is working, is receiving recognition and foundation. Like this, we are all thinking on the same lines. I would ask you to give a big hand for his humility. And the fact that he's actually said that our note is a wonderful note. Thank you very much, sir. I would now like to invite Madhusudan. That is not something wrong with this. We'll have to hold this and then do a next jump. There.
That's going to
you can
be
move it now.
too many things to. Does this work? That's also.
Kavita, would this work?
The handheld mic is not working. We just have
So
to
this is
tell
not
them.
working?
Yeah, we have to tell them. Can you put this on?
That's the mic on.
As long as you don't turn back, you can use that. Otherwise, the mic is here and people are turning their head. That's the problem.
Okay.
That's why
Yeah.
the handheld.
No, this should be okay.
I'll tell you in 20.
Please. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Is this mic working?
Yeah, yeah. You can hear me, right? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you to the organizers for including me in this important gathering. It's an important doubt I have in my mind. I have not grown a crop. I have not spent any time trying to protect what I have grown against any animal. I have not experienced what it is to feel.
The recording is not catching your.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah,
Okay.
So this is better, and hold it this way.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very noisy.
Oh, you wanted to turn that off?
It'll be noisy.
Okay.
But you'll have to hold it like this.
Okay.
We're sorry about that.
Okay, not having known what it is to grow a crop, what it is to protect one, and not having, wilted in the sun all day, lost sleep all night, I don't know, what would I say to a group of farmers who know all of this? You know it with your bodies, you know it with your entire life, you know it with your experience. I'm an ecologist. What I bring is something much smaller. I have spent some time asking one question. What brings the animals to your farms? The animals that come there, why do they come there? That's largely what I've tried to understand a little bit. This is a narrow question. It's not the same as knowing what it means to have the animal in your farm, what you lose in terms of sleep, what you experience in terms of fear, what you experience in terms of the indignity of going and asking someone for a compensation for something you've spent so many months trying to grow. So what I have is a small and partial answer to a much larger puzzle, but it might be an important small piece with which to begin. I'm going to talk about three broad things today, and the first is about this issue of what brings an animal to your farm. I think it's something that has many causes. I think we'd like to look at that, some of that. And so any explanation which says with confidence and certainty and loudness that this is why animals are coming is wrong. This is an extremely complex problem. And I think we need to understand and accept the complexity of it. We need to understand the complexity of it. We can have multiple simplistic explanations for this, It's not going to help. It's a very complex problem at multiple levels. I'll get to that in a bit. The second, I don't think this is a problem between the farmer and the animal. I don't think that's where the problem is. That's so animals come to your farm, but I don't think your problem is with the animal that comes to your farm. I think the problem that we are calling as conflict is the problem between two groups of people. One group makes the decisions, doesn't experience what the consequences of those decisions are. We make the laws, we set up the administration, we have the entire structure, we have procedures. They don't live under the procedure. And the people who experience it do not have a say in what plans get made, how they get implemented. So it is a conflict between two groups of people. It is not a conflict between an animal and a farmer. That's the second point I want to make. And the third is, how do we move forward with something like this? Very little will change unless and until the people who face the pain are also the people who have the power to change things. That really is the bigger change that is needed here. So let me make these three stops. So the first one is that what we are calling conflict between farmers and wildlife is an issue with many, many causes. I don't think there is one cause. If there is one cause, there would have been one solution, and this would have been found several thousand years ago. Because everyone's been struggling with this for a long time, and it's not so. It's a complex problem. So let me begin with a situation that all of you are familiar with. There are animals coming into the farm. Why does an elephant come into the farm? Why does a leopard come into farmland? Why does a leopard start to live there? Just to give you an example of how complex this can be, without getting into too much detail, let me tell you two very different situations under which the same pattern of an animal coming into farmland we can see. Seeing an animal in the farmland, we can't say what's going on. This is an important thing to remember. So, in one situation, imagine that there is a forest. The forest is getting degraded. The natural food is getting depleted. There may be lantana. Muni talked about senna. There are invasive species that can be in a landscape where the natural grasses, the food that herbivores eat, they're not available. So there are monoculture plantations that have been there for decades. We don't have that diverse forest. The area is being further fragmented by roads, by railways, by canals, by mining. So animals could be coming to your farms because their home is broken and they have no choice. This is one possibility. But let us consider something completely different. Let's consider that hunting has stopped. The loss of forests has been stemmed. Populations of wild species have recovered. Conservation is succeeding. This is not made up. It's real. It's happening. It's happened with our tigers. Our tiger numbers have increased by about threefold from when we started Project Tiger in the early 70s to much later. Today it's over 3,000. So there is without a doubt a big increase in numbers. Conservation is succeeding. Protection is working. So in these situations too, the problem is not getting created because of a failure to protect our forests and our natural habitats. In these cases too, the forest is full. There is no more real estate. So the animal there's no room for young animals that are being produced. Where are they going to go settle down? Leopards and tigers are territorial. Elephants need a lot of food. They have to find other places to which they have to move through human landscapes and find places. I don't know if you've been reading about this tiger that traveled from Tadoba in Maharashtra all the way to Godavari in Rajahmundry. So this is a tiger that's walked hundreds of kilometers. So there are animals. Tadoba is an extremely successful park if you look at tiger numbers. So here is a tiger that's coming out, and it's coming out because things are going too well within the park. It has to find a way of getting out. So you spoil habitats, you can have animals coming out. You succeed with conservation, you still have animals coming out. So just looking at the presence of animals in farmland is not going to tell you what the story is. So both these situations need very different responses. But unfortunately, we don't have such nuanced responses. And Muni talked about how animals are adapting. Wild pigs are perhaps the oldest examples. They've been extremely adept at living entirely in agricultural fields. They're everywhere now. Similarly with bonnet monkeys. Elephants are learning to overcome barriers. They're learning from each other on how to navigate these landscapes. Leopards and tigers are now not just visiting farmlands, they're beginning to reside and learn to live and breed within these farmlands. These are also bigger there are also bigger changes. Peafowl. The gentleman before me spoke about peafowl. In 20 years, their population and distribution has increased by 150% in this country. We have very good documented evidence of this change occurring. So there are these huge changes. But at the same time, agriculture also has changed. 20 years ago, I started to work in Bandipur. I was largely looking at an agriculture that was rain-fed. It was mostly ragi, pulses, and oilseeds. Fields were bare for months. There was a pronounced fallow period. No leopard could hide there. No leopard could live in a place that became completely fallow and open for several months a year. Today, that's not how the place is. There are bore wells, there are subsidies, there is sugarcane, there's banana, there's year-round crops in the same landscape, right next to Bandipur. It's a landscape where animals can live permanently. A tiger cub raised for 2 years or a leopard cub raised for 2 years in a sugarcane field will not know what a deer is. You can take it and put it in the forest, it will come right outside looking for dogs and goats. So the sugarcane is the only home that many animals of the many wild species have known. Nobody planned this. Not you, not the animal, not the government. This is what happens when our agriculture policy, our water policy, our conservation policy, our market forces, they all pull in different directions. They believe that they are all unrelated to other things and proceed in the same landscape in ways that are completely uncoordinated without a picture, with nobody looking at the whole picture. So the social side is just as tangled. So we have imagined that the line we draw between the forest and the farmland is a line that actually makes sense. Ecologically, it makes no sense. Animals always move. There are ecological processes and species that move across this. Forever, as he mentioned, if there is jackfruit, an elephant that has enough forage in the forest will come outside for jackfruit. It's because it's more attractive that the elephant is coming. It's not because there is no food in the forest. So these lines are not respected by wildlife. Similarly, people have to depend on the forest during the cultivation season for grazing. People depend on the forest for fuel wood. People depend on the forest for water. So the lines we draw make no sense ecologically, neither do they make sense economically, because livelihoods are dependent on flows that happen across these boundaries. So then the kind of systems we put in place by which we try to manage the consequences of this. There is 3 more minutes, okay, then I should. So all this makes this what is called a wicket problem. A wicket problem is tangled, it's stubborn, there is no single right answer. So like I said, the really big problem is the problem between groups of people. So there are the farmers, and then on the other hand, there is a large part of managing the wildlife which is with the forest department. It's a 160-year-old institution, was conceptualized and built during the colonial times, still largely exists with a set of sensibilities that informed its creation centuries ago. And there are conservationists. They may care well about species, but their understanding of what it means to be a farmer experiencing challenges from these species is not complete. And then we have a whole bunch of things we try to put into place in terms of courts and committees. And they will say, change your farming pattern. As if farming pattern is something a farmer has come up with just out of whimsy. But not recognizing that there are rational choices that have informed this, and that these cannot just be reduced into something very, very absurd. But nevertheless, across a country as diverse as ours, whether it's an elephant in a coffee farm, a nilgai in a wheat field, or a monkey in a coconut orchard, as our policy sees it, as our law sees it, there is a uniformity, there is a universality that applies everywhere. The ecological, the social, or the cultural setting doesn't seem to matter. And this is what frustrates the farmer. There was a farmer in a meeting organized by an MP in Mysuru several years ago where I attended. His problem was, here is what he said. He told the forest department, you have figured out how to compensate us for crops. You have figured out how to compensate us for a loss of limb. You have figured out what the value of a life is, and you can compensate the value of a life. In all of this, you have not told me what is the value of an elephant. We've been able to put a value on human life. Tell us how much an elephant is. We'll pay it to you. The whole room was silent. The point he was trying to make, and then he said, you are devaluing a lot of things that are important to us and putting a cost on it. But when it comes to an elephant, you're not saying this is the value of an elephant. The farmers can compensate you. But that's not what I want. I don't want the elephant to be reduced to a number, to money. Similarly, I don't want all of the things, our crops, our lives, our limbs don't want to be reduced. I don't want that to be reduced to numbers either. When something happens in my field, I'm alone. I want you to come and be with me. I'm not trying to ask you to solve a problem that's beyond you. He's alone and powerless in defining the problem. And in imagining what the solution can be. And think, so this reasoning is much more important than anything I've read in any scientific paper. So right now the conflict is between people who see the same problem from two very different places. And this is really the conflict. And because of this, nobody is winning. Not the farmers, not the wildlife. So what I want to point to here is, maybe this is what allows us to segue into the next part of it, which is the conversation about the note and so on. There's a whole part I plan to talk, which I will skip over because we don't have time for this. But what I want to emphasize here is that individually what anybody needs to do to protect their farms and crops from wildlife, you're all doing. For us to gather here and say, here is how you protect your crops, is not a useful conversation to have. The useful conversation to have is that about the deeper systemic issues, about the institutional problems there are, about the conflict, as I said, between groups of people who make decisions and others who have to live under those decisions. Here is where I think if the way of making this decision can be made more responsive in such a way that the people who experience the pain are the people with whom the power must rest. We are a remarkable country. We have among the highest densities of humans anywhere. We're the most populous country, but you will see that no other country other than regions of South Asia have this level of wildlife presence in densely populated human areas. And the reason for that is not a conservationist, not the government, not the forest department. It's because our people, all of you, know how to make space and live with wildlife. And I think these are the people who have both have the sensibilities that allow and the imagination to practice something as fundamentally important as farming within and addressing the challenges of making space for other non-human forms of life in ways that is not saying either this or that. That is the cultural space. We don't have physical space, but we have vast cultural space. If there's space in every one of your hearts for wildlife, and I think that is where the power to make decisions, to imagine what the problem is and to create the solutions, that is where the power needs to come back. And how do we bring that power back is the conversation that I think we should be having.
See,
that was surely enlightening. That sets the foundation for some of the thoughts that we have to take forward in this whole conflict resolution, which we are also talking about in terms of coexistence. There is a set of things that are in the document. I would request all of you to go in there later and come back to us if you have anything to add, because with lack of time, I'm not going to go through that. I wanted to, I will not. It was already about 15, 20 minutes late. Just to highlight it, one, we have put up a set of points which we probably will have to ask the governments to do or engage with the governments to do across sectors, from local self-government to the national government. And we're also talking about certain legal interventions that are needed. So, and it largely, reflects or aligns with what has been spoken by all the four. I would have loved to have an interactive thing, but unfortunately, for lack of time, we don't do that. I also want to take the liberty, Madhu sir, to just mention that yesterday he sent me a message saying, I'm overwhelmed by what is happening here, I want to support you. And thank you for that specifically. He did support, apart from just the, the application, the registration and all that, he also gave us a little contribution from his pocket. Thank you very much, Madhu, for that. I'll now invite us one small event that we have to do today. See, there is somebody called Janani Bharat. Bharat around here, if you can come around. She's not here? Yeah, she can come. She's a freelance development worker, volunteering, and she's been associated with a lot of philanthropy and environmental organizations in the past. And she right now works with the vulnerable children and people with disabilities. And the work that she's done is, we requested her, and she also wanted to do it, that there is a lot of solutions that are there in this whole space. People trying to resolve the conflict, address the conflict, mitigative, and all that. And we thought it would be good if we can put them all together into a coexistence template model. It's a virtual thing, it will be on the net. It's a working document, or let's say a working site, and it will keep adding crop-wise, solution-wise, region-wise, whatever experiences are there from the farmers, from experts, from scientists. Whatever has come here also we'll probably have to put in. I'm sure that she's taken good note of it. This has to be added. So this is a work in progress, and this is Janani. Unfortunately, I would have asked her to give us a 10-minute thing, but I'm sorry we cannot do that. You can get her number and also talk to her. But just go to this thing and then scroll down and let's see what we have done.
There's some for
please.
Janani herself will say.
Yeah.
There's some farmer things.
Is the mouse there? So the green section you can see is a solution for the farmers. This we have done by interacting with a lot of the farmers and getting their solution for each of the problem animals. So there's a solution for elephants, and there is for leopards, tigers, nilgai, peacock, monkeys. A lot of the crops are covered, and these are specifically solution oriented, what they're doing at the field level. And the second one is it's largely more of an academic document that will be probably useful for researchers and CS organizations. If you come down, this is also divided by the animals, the species. Please, can you scroll down?
Just scroll up.
Yeah, so these are the species that have been covered in this compendium. And if you can scroll down, the entire PDF document is attached below, but it is still, like they said, a work in progress. And some more work has to go into bringing it to
the domain name. What is the name?
So the name of this is coexistence.kisanswaraj.in. Coexistence. I think if you go to the ASHA Kisan Swaraj website, we should be able to link to this. Coexistence.kisanswaraj.in.
So thank you very much. The hope is that we'll be able to improve on this domain with a lot of help from all of you. So keep telling us, letting us know if we have found some little solution, you have tested it out, your experiences. There are researchers that also request all the four of you to keep looking at it and helping us, because this could be a very straight interface to the farmer community in India. So that is a small effort that we have taken. And okay, for the session, thank you very much. Thank you, Madhusudan. Thank you, Vipin. Thank you, Malavika, and all of you. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry for not having this interaction later, but please understand that we do have and remember at 11:45, even if it gets a little extended, after this we have one session, very important session. So if you have friends around who are loitering around or roaming around, ask them to come here because the next session is extremely important and very good. Kavita will talk about it. But around, as soon as that session is over, we would have the normal parallel sessions. So remember, it's only after that session. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sridhar. Thanks to the earlier panel. It was highly enlightening. We have the next special plenary lined up where we will hear about a wonderful initiative that's unfolding, a large program that's unfolding, that too by a state government in the form of Andhra Pradesh Community Natural Farming Program. But before that, one announcement. I hear that there's quite a bit of confusion about the parallel sessions after this session, when they would start and so on. So this is a special instruction to Bhanuja, Usha, Devi Lakshmi Kuti, Sridhar Radhakrishnan, Selvam Ramaswamy, Nachiketu Lupa, Kiran Visar, Rajesh Krishnan, if Nandini Jairam would please facilitate the free trade agreement session for her, Manas Arvind and Anantu. The parallel sessions will start right after Mr. Vijay Kumar's session gets over, 1 hour from now. 5 minutes, you just rush into your specific classrooms. We have this special plenary starting now. I would like to introduce Mr. T. Vijay Kumar and please welcome him onto the stage. He is a very, very rare bureaucrat that this country has seen, and it's a privilege that he's made time to come here. He was originally planning to come for just literally a flying visit of 2 hours or something. Please take your seat, sir. But he changed his mind and decided to come for 2 days. He was here yesterday itself. And Mr. T. Vijay Kumar is a Special Chief Secretary to the Government of Andhra Pradesh. He heads the Natural Farming Department of Andhra Pradesh Government, and he also heads the Right to Sadhikarita Samstha in the government, which is a GO-NGO. And he is a bureaucrat who's had tremendous experience
from governments which are socially and environmentally equitable and sustainable. Probably no other bureaucrat has that sort of experience, and they were rightly placed in his hand because
is the scaling up of women's SHGs as the basis for a lot of socio-economic development that needed to take place in rural India. And he headed what went by different names, including Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty, the Rural Livelihoods Mission in Andhra Pradesh, in undivided Andhra Pradesh. And it was under him that SHGs became the foundation, which was not just about thrifting credit, but many more things, including feminist approaches about how women have a particular status in the villages. Again, it was under him that in Andhra Pradesh, a wonderful sustainable agriculture related initiative unfolded, which was called Community Managed Sustainable Agriculture Program, CMSA. And if you look at how well the non-pesticidal management of crops unfolded, it is probably the fastest adopted technology. GM crop promoters say that their BT cotton got adopted fast, but if you look at the numbers of NPM adoption in Andhra Pradesh, it was under him. It was the fastest adopted technology, and he knew how to create an enabling ecosystem for it. Then He became the additional secretary in the Ministry of Rural Development in Government of India, where he scaled up in NRLM this concept of women self-help groups being the drivers of change at the grassroots. And that is how large-scale NRLM initiatives spread to all states of India. And it was during that time that he initiated what to this day is probably the best agroecology design. It was he who designed. Community Managed Natural Farming, APCNF, which is reaching out to lakhs of farmers in a journey that is really gaining strength as it moves forward. We welcome you and over to you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
You just have to say next, people are seated there.
Oh, I
and
see.
they'll keep changing.
Okay. So thank you very much, Kavita, for the...
Mind standing here, the light will fall. Okay.
Thank you very much for the, what I call as the over-generous introduction. But it's really a pleasure coming here and seeing so many organizations who've been working for such a long time. So all of you are really the champions, and I'm your voice. I see from people have come from all the southern states. Warm greetings to all of you. And I would like to take you through what we have been doing in Andhra Pradesh. It's now more than 10 years. So the Andhra Pradesh Community Managed Natural Farming, the vision is farmers' prosperity, not just livelihoods. Farmers should be prosperous. People should be healthy, and through this we secure planetary health. And the vision in our state is that all 60 lakh farmer households and 20 lakh landless should be part of this movement, should benefit and also benefit the humanity. And I regard farmers as gods. So they are the ones, farmers, all of you are the ones who are feeding us, and those who are doing natural farming are also keeping us healthy, and you are keeping the planet healthy. So I can't think of a better definition of a god than a farmer doing natural farming. Next one, please. I just want to show what is the crisis. Because we are in a very serious crisis, we are experiencing it. But this, it's not just what is called as the greenhouse gas emissions alone. So a new science emerged about 15, 16 years ago called the planetary boundary science. So scientists from across the world, more than 200 eminent scientists, the lead was taken by Professor Johan Rockström, who is now leading the Potsdam Institute. So they said for the planet to be stable, different processes have to be within the green boundary that we can see, and they identified 9 planetary boundaries. And in this report, this was in 2023, they said we have crossed 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries. And 5 of them have been crossed because of the agriculture that we are practicing. And an update in 2025 is that we have crossed the 7th boundary also, which is the ocean acidification. So you can see all the red marks. So the first one is biogeochemical flows. That means excess nitrogen, phosphorus. You can see we are more, twice the safe limits. Then novel entities, those which don't disintegrate, like all these horrible herbicides, synthetic pesticides, other synthetic chemicals used in agriculture, then plastics. So novel entities, more than twice the safe limits. Land system changes. So land degradation, desertification, again, that's also at a very dangerous place. Biosphere integrity. So loss of biodiversity. Then what we call as climate change measured in greenhouse gas emissions. So you can see the greenhouse gas emissions is only one of the 9 boundaries. So you don't get the full story of the climate change if you look at it only as a greenhouse gas emission story. And then freshwater change. There is a green water and a blue water. So we are focusing on blue water, but we have forgotten the green water. And then there are 3 others: ozone layer, atmospheric aerosol loading, and ocean acidification. So we need food to live, but the way we are producing food ensures that we don't live. So that is the human dilemma. Or even if we live, our next generation will not live. So that is the situation we are in right now. And apart from the fact, the way we are producing food also is not good for the farmers, the high risk associated with that. So there are multiple crises that food is not safe to eat, and the farmers are not making money. They are not able to earn their livelihood from that. So this is the state of the planet, and it's not healthy at all. Next one. So why natural farming is important is, natural farming is farming in harmony with nature. There are different names, different variations of this theme, but anything in harmony with nature, respecting the laws of nature, is natural farming. So it's one solution for the multiple emergencies, and I'll explain to you how this solves various problems. Next. Also, I'll start with what is the science behind natural farming. Next. So there are different, understanding of what is natural farming. First, I want to clarify, it's not the same as the kind of agriculture practiced by our forefathers. This is different. And this different science started somewhere around 2000 in USA, Australia, and Europe. I don't see much scientific studies here. And leaders of this scientific movement are basically microbiologists, climate scientists, and also I would say advances in microscopy and of understanding what is happening below the soil also help this science. So this is a new science which understands the soil microbiome and how it impacts all other processes, plant physiology, water cycle, plant health, etc. But yes, there is something common between what we are saying as a modern and emerging science and our own traditions. And that what is common is the respect for nature. Respect for nature, respect for biodiversity, and a holistic view. Unfortunately, the so-called Green Revolution became a very reductionist approach to agriculture. So any reductionist approach to such a complex phenomenon will not work. Next. So these are some of the famous scientists who have really influenced my thinking. There are many more, but these are the most influential ones. Next. So just one part I want to start, and then there are other paradigm shifts. So what this science has taught us is that farming or crop management does not require even 1 gram of fertilizers, whether synthetic or organic. And this is a very, very important point. And once I realized this, then my whole thinking changed. So even the small quantities of biological inputs that are used in natural farming are not meant to provide NPK. They have a different role. They are biostimulants meant to trigger the microbiome. So I just want all of you to keep this in mind, that the bio inputs which are used in natural farming are not meant to provide the NPK. For many years, I had this argument with our own agriculture scientists, with scientists from the ICR. They used to ask me how much nitrogen is there in the Jivamrita, how much phosphorus, potassium. So I used to tell them, they're not meant to provide NPK. They have a different role. So this is our conclusion after about 10 years of work. Next. So why am I saying this? As you know, plants evolved much before human beings. So angiosperms, the flowering plants, are about 120 million years old, whereas agriculture is just about 10,000 years old. So therefore there is something which preceded any human intervention. And this is what actually happens in nature. The source of all life is photosynthesis. And only leaves can make food because of the chloroplast. So leaf makes food, 100 units of food. 40 units are stored in the shoot system, whatever you can see above ground. 30% is stored in the root system. So that is 70%. But 30% is pushed by the plant into the soil. So plants are feeding the soil. Now, why are they doing this? Next. So this is the reason why plants are pushing food into the soil. This is called the soil food web, which was first articulated by Dr. Elaine Ingham, a very famous microbiologist in USA. So, and subsequently so many scientists have worked on that. So the root exudates are the food for bacteria and fungi, which in turn are food for so many other species. But what this shows is the bacteria, fungi, they depend on the food given by the plants, and in return they make bioavailable all the nutrients that are found in the soil. So whether it is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, boron, sulfur, manganese, zinc, about 40, 50 elements which every plant requires, they are made bioavailable. So it is a cyclical process. So plants feed the soil, and the microorganisms in the soil in return are providing all the nutrients at the right time and right quantities, neither more nor less. So this is the wonderful cycle designed by nature. And you should also know that the weight of any plant, whether it's a grass or a big tree, 97%, only 3 elements, carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So CO2 from the air and water from the root system, water from the air. So 97%. Another 1.5% could be nitrogen, and as you know, 78% of air is nitrogen. So the balance 1.5% is what the plant is getting from the nutrients in the soil by first converting them through this biological process into bioavailable forms. So it is this beautiful cycle which has been designed by nature which is responsible for the nutrient acquisition by the plants. So this means that we don't have to put fertilizers, which is a very wrong notion. So this is a very important point. I just want you to remember this, that plants are central. Plants feed the soil. It's not the other way. Next one. There is one more process which is associated with the microbial interactions, and that is the water cycle. So as you can see here, the organic glues, or the bacteria multiplying, providing nutrient through the plants, dying, what's called as necromass. So this cycling of this microbial masses below the soil creates a soil structure. So good soil should be porous. 50% by volume should be air. And that's possible only if you have a good soil microbiome. And once you have that, then you can see water infiltration happening. And if more carbon gets into the soil, the water holding increases. So 1 additional gram of carbon binds with additionally 8 grams of water. So water holding capacity comes not from digging, but having good soil microbiome and having carbons oozing into the soil and not getting oxidized. But there is a third phenomenon which is really responsible for many of the breakthroughs that we have had in natural farming. We discovered that plants grown through natural farming or regenerative agriculture, they acquire a special quality, and that is they are able to harness water from the air. And this is something we discovered in 2018-19. We're still trying to understand the science behind it, but this application we have taken it forward. So next. Just to give you an idea of how big is the microbial world. So scientists try to estimate how much carbon is there in all the life forms in the world. So they estimated 550 gigatons, 550 billion tons, out of which 450 gigatons is in the plant kingdom. In the animal kingdom, out of 100 gigatons, they said that those which are invisible life forms, bacteria, fungi, archaea, protists, they account for 93 gigatons. So 100 gigatons of carbon in the animal kingdom, 93 gigatons is in the invisible form. That means it's the, and what you can see, visible animals, is 7 gigatons. Human beings are 0.06 gigatons. So you can see what is the power of the microbial communities in the soil, in the air, and in our own bodies. As you know, a lot of research is happening around what's called as the gut microbiome. So healthy soil microbiome leads to healthy plant microbiome, then leads to healthy animal and then healthy human microbiome. So this is just to tell you that without understanding the microbiome, some of our solutions may be totally against nature. And what makes it more difficult is that less than 1% of these invisible microbes have been characterized by modern science. So we don't even know what they do. So that is the mystery. Next. So based on this scientific understanding, we developed the principles of natural farming that we follow in Andhra Pradesh. And first and foremost is to have a living root. We call it 365 days green cover. Why is this important? Because plants are feeding the soil, and in return, the microbes are providing nutrients to the soil. And the second principle, which is very, very important, is diversity of plants. So every plot of land. So the more the diversity, the better in terms of diverse microbes which are activated, and also the quantity of microbes which are activated. So these two, 1 and 2, put together is really the essence of natural farming. So 365 days green cover means plants are feeding the soil every day, which in turn is keeping the soil microbiome active, growing, and creating diversity. The third one, which is linked to the first two, is to keep the soil covered with crop residues. So the crop residue cover reduces evaporation losses and also reduces the soil temperature. But in terms of providing nutrition to the soil, it has a limited role. The most important role is that of the root exudates. 95% comes through that route. Then the fourth one, which is again very important, is minimal disturbance of soils. Minimal tillage, so that you don't break the soil structure. Because the microbes have created the soil structure, so you should not break the soil structure through repeated tillage. The fifth one is very important. Farmers' own seeds to be used, and indigenous seeds are preferred. Indigenous seeds are better. And this is something we discovered the science behind it very recently. This is the work of Professor James White. I mentioned it in my previous slides. So he is the biggest proponent of what is now called as rhizophagy and also the core microbiome. So he discovered the roots are also taking microbes into themselves and squeezing those microbes through dosing them with oxygen. So they take the nutrients from the microbes and spit them out. But some of these microbes which the plant thinks are important for its survival, they take them through the root system, into the shoot system, into the leaves, flowers, fruits and grains. So every seed has millions of microbes. So this is called the biological quality of the seeds, which currently, our typical agriculture scientists are not looking into this. So this core microbiome of the seeds, once we understand this, then we realize how the biological stimulation plays such a key role. So this is a very, very important principle we recommend to our farmers, that they should use their own seeds, because even if they buy from the market for the first time, subsequent seed requirement should be met from their own fields. And we are discovering, again, this is again emerging science, that indigenous seeds also have very different microbial structure, different microbes, as Professor White calls them as the ancient microbes. And that's why you find that indigenous seeds are good for your health. So it's not just romanticism, there's so much of science which is being discovered. Sixth is, of course, integrating animals into farming, because each one is dependent on the other. The seventh is use of biostimulants. So all the biological inoculum that we use in natural farming, whether it's the Jivamrita or different panchakavyas or tonics, so they're all biostimulants. They are not providing NPK, they are not nutrition, they are not fertilizers. small quantities are required to trigger soil biology. And similarly, pest management through botanical extracts. In fact, my journey into this started with pest management. What Kavita just mentioned as the non-chemical pest management, NPM. So that was the starting point. But now I realize that if a plant is healthy, no pest will attack it. So we should actually have a different theory now called zero pest management. And obviously no synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, weedicides, because they interfere with all this. Yeah, next. So this biodiversity, next. This is seed coating, microbial coating of the seed with what is called as Bijamrita from cow dung, cow urine. Many of you will be familiar with this. But this coats the seed with microbes, which help the seeds because they are talking to the microbes inside the seed. They are also talking to the microbes in the soil. So it has that kind of a function. Next. This is a solid amendment. Ganesh Jivamrita, cow dung, cow urine, jaggery, a bit of soil. So this is used at the time of sowing the seeds. So the seed, along with Ganesh Jivamrita, has a better chance of survival because the seed has a rich microbial environment around itself. That's the role of these. Next. Then there's a liquid Jivamrita, which is, as you can see, applied on the leaves. And now we realize, because there are microbes in the leaves, the philosphere as it's called. So they get triggered with this. There's also Panchakavya, there's also egg amino acid, fish amino acid. So both growth promoters, tonics are available once germination happens. Next. These are botanical pesticides. Next. Yeah. Then I just want to turn attention to scaling. How did we scale this natural farming? Next one. Yeah. We started in 2016. Of course, 2015 was a planning phase. The actual work on ground started in 2016 with 40,000 farmers across the state. There were 13 districts at that time in Andhra Pradesh. So we said we'd take, about 50 villages in every district. And from 40,000, we moved to around 11 lakh farmers last year. And this year, thanks to the National Mission for Natural Farming, we were about to reach 18 lakh farmers. So about 30% farmers in the state are enrolled into natural farming. It's a long journey. Enrollment doesn't mean that they have completely changed. Enrollment means they are doing some practice of natural farming, and there are also people who are completely 100% chemical free. So it's a big range. We know that it takes 5 to 7 years for a farmer to make this complete transition. And 13% of the area of the state is farmers enrolled in natural farming. Next. And this is our plan for the next 5 years. So by 2030-31, we plan to reach 40 lakh farmers. So about 2/3 farmers, and also about 10 to 12 lakhs of landless farm workers. So this is our plan, and this year, 26-27, we plan to reach 100% villages in the state. Then it's a journey. Each village requires 10-12 years of support. So we provide that long-term support. Next. And as I mentioned, there are some farmers who are just starting. There are also other farmers who have completely got rid of chemicals. So we call them seed-to-seed farmers. So we have around close to 3 lakh farmers who are completely free from any chemicals. Next. Yeah. So how did we reach here? How did the scale happen? Next one, please. First is the government provides the support, all departments work with government to implement natural farming, the district collectors, the various departments including the agriculture department, horticulture, animal husbandry, SERP, the State Rural Livelihoods Mission. So the government support is very critical in scaling up. NGOs' work is important to show proof of concept, to show what is possible. But to scale that up, obviously you need government resources. And for a government, because to start with, 99.5% farmers were chemical farmers. So that is where the government supported two contradictory approaches to farming. On one hand, farmers' requirements for fertilizers, pesticides had to be met. At the same time, one part of the government is saying, no, don't use any of this. So this is what is the difficult part. For a government to promote both the approaches. It is easy for me now after 10 years, but to start with, starting from year one. So that required real support right from the Chief Minister to the Chief Secretary to various secretaries in the government. So that was really a very difficult path to navigate. Second is our research in natural farming is throwing up very new kinds of knowledge. So it's a very dynamic knowledge. If I'd come 3 years ago, I would not be saying certain things which I'm saying now. I didn't know that at that time. So it's very dynamic. We also change our practices as and when new knowledge becomes available, new knowledge is tested on ground. I'll explain that process also. This is from at the organizational level. But the most important factor is right from day one. This program is led by the women. So it is the women self-help groups which provided the support to this program. And once women come together, there is nothing that they cannot do. That's what they have proved. They have said, many of the cases we found that husbands were reluctant to do natural farming. But the women said, no, it has to be done. And because they're part of the women SSG, they had a strong voice. So, almost every woman has this story that she argued with her husband and then they said, okay, 50% land you do your way, 50% I'll do my way. And invariably the men lost. So after 1 year they had to change. Yeah. Yes, they deserve that clap. But for the women's involvement, I don't think we would have succeeded. So, of course, some very good husbands changed after one season. Some very, what shall we say, adamant people took 3 years to change. I met a lady who said to her husband 3 years once, only when he made a lot of losses, at the same time she made money, then he said, okay, you're right. So not so any program that you do by involving the women's collectives is bound to succeed. The fourth is a very important principle or a lever I call it, is the extension system. Our extension system, even though I was heading the agriculture department when we initiated the program, I didn't do it through the agriculture department. I said the best practicing farmers are the best motivators, are the best trainers. So we call them as community resource persons. So best practitioners who have gone through this process for several years. So they are the ones who can train others. So the community resource persons is farmer to farmer extension system. So that is the one we are emphasizing as the most important factor in knowledge dissemination. The fifth is, this is not an overnight process. And first year there are bound to be mistakes made. But at that time, typically neighboring farmers may laugh at you. But the women's self-help group supports their members through thick and thin. So this support provided by the groups, especially in the initial years of transition, has been very critical in the scaling. So that's why we have, of course, our organization is dedicated to long-term support. Civil society organizations, NGOs are present. The most important role is of the women's organizations for holding it together, for holding it for a long time, till that village, everybody moves to natural farming. Then we also got a lot of benefits from collaborations with both global and national institutions. Because we received a lot of knowledge, we also provided them with a lot of knowledge. So I call them as our 6 levers for scaling up and for the systems impact. So we need to continue till natural farming becomes the default option for every farmer in Andhra Pradesh. So it's not a one-off thing. It has to be done continuously. The systems have to change. So every system, every agriculture extension system also has to say, first thing is to do natural farming. So that is the framework of our implementation. Next. Yeah, this I already explained. Next. Next. Yeah, so we started with about 700 community resource persons. So now we have 10,000 plus. Out of them, more than 60% are women farmers. And we put a condition in the selection now that only those who have convinced their husbands, and similarly only those men who have convinced their wives. Because they are out of the village for 3 weeks in a month, going to some other village. So we don't want their own farm to not have that continuous approach. Next. So in Andhra Pradesh, there is no financial inducement to join natural farming, and it's a voluntary adoption and on-farm resources. So basically it's a do-it-yourself farming. So no subsidies provided, no provision for any yield loss compensation. So it should prove to the farmers that's beneficial from year one itself. So that's the challenge we put to ourselves. Next. And just to tell you the structure, because we analyzed more than 12 lakh farmers, and plus all those who are in the SSG fold, and some of them who are not in the SSG fold. So as you can see, 47% farmers had less than 1.25 acres holding, and they were operating 20% area. 30% farmers, 1.25 acres to 2.50 acres, that means up to 1 hectare. So they operated 29% area. So 80% farmers and 50% area is our target. 100% we should work with them until they completely change. The remaining 2 categories, 1 to 2 hectares, 2.5, 1 to 5 hectares, there are about 18% farmers who account for 32% land, and 2 hectares and above, 5% farmers account for 80% land. So with them it is voluntary. Those who want to change, we encourage them to change, we provide them the technical knowledge. And as you can see, overall, all categories put together, right now in these villages, 83% farmers are enrolled and 49% area is covered. And we also have a strategy for the landless farm workers. About 4 lakh landless farm workers is through homestead gardens, then they graduate to taking lands on lease. So this is a very pro-poor initiative focused on marginal farmers, mostly, and small farmers. Next. And this is what I meant by, changing the entire village. So we don't just go there, project is for 3 years. You just work here for 3 years and then leave. We said we'll be in that village till everyone changes. And that's how we've been modifying the government schemes to allow for a long-term hand-holding support. And this is very, very important. Without this, it will not work. Next. And I'll just take you through some of the key impacts. Next. I think people have been told that natural farming, organic farming means the yields will go down, the costs are more, so you need to pay a premium price. Otherwise, people will not take up natural farming. So and our technology has been improving every year. So with the technology that we had in 2025, which we took to the farmers, sorry, in 24, 25 results are coming now. So we found that in the first year itself, for major crops, farmers had similar yields or little higher yields, but the cost came down very significant. So this is a very important slide which shows that in the first year itself, so in the first year itself, net incomes increased from 19% to 36%. But it's also because our technology kept on changing. It's not the technology we started in 2016. And this is so important that we publicize this very widely so that it can happen in any state. In fact, we are now working in 22 states. We have done these crop cutting experiments in about 8 or 9 states where we have been working for more than 1 year. And I'm so happy to inform you, in every state, the first year results have shown similar yields or higher yields at lesser cost. Meghalaya, we've had 50% net income increase in the first year. So if somebody says that yields are going to fall, costs are going to be high, please don't believe that. Next. And yeah, so these are the yields of major crops, as you can see: paddy, groundnut, red gram, cotton, ragi. And these crops account for 60% of the area. So yields are similar, costs have come down, so net income has increased. Next. But the best part is, year after year, the yield keeps increasing, the costs keep coming down, and therefore the net income increases at a much faster pace. So here we looked at farmers who were in the 4th year of natural farming, 3rd year, 2nd year and 1st year. So this is a very important slide, and we did 2,600 crop cutting experiments. Nobody does that number of experiments. And we call them one set: chemical farmer, 1st year, 2nd year, 3rd year and 4th year. So this year it will become 6 sets. So we also will be adding 5th year and 6th year and above. So no other business can give this kind of returns. Next. And this is again a very, very important intervention. We are looking at the consumption side. So we have a very specific intervention in about 400 villages where we are focusing on the consumption, starting with pregnant women, nursing mothers, mothers of small children, adolescent girls. So how does better nutrition improve their health? Of course, it seems commonsensical, but we also have to prove to the world. So we have been doing this very serious assessment. So we ensure every household has a nutri-garden, backyard poultry, and some of them interested small ruminants. Then we have a food basket where whole village gives an intent to buy, to consume, eat only natural farming foods. So whatever they are growing, fine. But whatever they are not growing, we connect them to farmers who are producing them using natural farming. So this had a very, very good impact. Next. So these are also the comparison to the NFHS 5 study. And then we have done baseline in these villages in 2019. We went back to those villages in 2024. And this last one is very important. It's called a credit score, Z scores. So this is a multi-dimensional indicator of the multi-dimensional development milestones of the child. So this is very, very positive. Those All India Institute of Medical Sciences, University of Edinburgh, who work with us, were very impressed with this. Next. These are all the key innovations. I don't have much time, so I'll just rush through them. Next. So this is the most important innovation. It's called the pre-monsoon dry sowing. And I told you this is the process we discovered that crops can be grown anytime, and then actually these crops are harnessing water from the air. So this is, in the pre-monsoon period, about 30 different seeds, 30 different crops, 12 kgs to 15 kgs are broadcast for every acre of land. And with the pre-monsoon showers, they come up. And so till the Kharif season, there is a green cover. And that's been, we're getting some outstanding results because of this one intervention. And then he says, why only pre-monsoon? We'll also do it after the Kharif crop. So we call it the Rabi dry sowing. So 365 days of the year, whether it's an irrigated field or a rain-fed field, how can you keep it under 365 days green cover? Next. Yeah, so the Australian scientists who visited us and who then explained the science behind this to us. Next. Now this is a very, very important phenomenon, again our discovery, and this is important for all of you working in rain-fed areas. This is called seed pelleting. So there were 4 layers. First layer is Bijamrita, then clay powder, then Ganajivamrita powder, and then ash. So with this you can sow the seeds anytime. In fact, tomorrow I am going to Anantapur because they have started sowing the seeds in February itself. So that even before the monsoons they should get one crop. In Anantapur, which is one of the most drought-affected districts in our state. And this is a very, very important innovation. It will become very important this year because this year is predicted to be a El Nino year, very strong El Nino year. So most of the rain-fed areas are in for a very difficult time. Next. Now this is an A-grade model. It is also linked to our idea of crop diversity. So for every major crop, we have developed this model of crop diversity. So every crop should have about 4 to 5 associated crops and about 15 to 20 biodiversity crops. So that means before sowing the crop, we already had through pre-monsoon dry sowing 30 different crops in the field. And then in the Kharif itself, we are not going for monocrops, we are going for multi-crop species, multi-crop plantations, and after Kharif again we have diverse crops. So there is cotton where we have these multiple crops. Next. Paddy is a very difficult crop to have crop diversity. So we are asking farmers to expand their bunds. So 5 feet, 6 feet width on 2 sides, L-shaped bund, and then have vegetables, fruits on these bunds. So this one farmer who's got about 1.5 lakhs per acre through keeping the field under crop cover for 365 days of the year. Next. Next. Yeah, next. This is a banana farmer. Next. So you can see the crop diversity in his field. So he's on close to 5.5 lakhs per acre. So banana, then turmeric, yam, chili, brinjal. And then he has got biodiversity crops. the landless poor, marginal farmers, we have this model for 1/5 acre, 20 cents. So we call it anytime money, ATM models. Next. Next. So you can see, idea is farmers should get money every month. So this is on 1/5 acre, how they are getting money every month. The crop combinations, we have a template, but then it keeps changing as per the farmer's own requirement. Next. Next. And this is a drought proofing initiative. You can see there those circles with about 5 crops. So to this we are adding an innovation this year, which we call a half moon model, which we learned as a practice in Africa. So we are testing it this year. Last year we did on a very small scale. We got good results. So, and this year will be a real test because of the El Nino. So this is a drought proofing model which we started in 2023 and kept on improving. Next. So based on this, we grade our farmers from level 1 to level 6. So the highest grade is what I call as do nothing farming. So at that stage, farmer doesn't require even bio inputs. So through 365 days green cover, diverse crops. So the only effort is in sowing the crops and harvesting. So there are different grades for the farmers. And the idea is every farmer on 1 acre plus 20 cents of ATM model should earn between 25,000 to 50,000 rupees per month. Next. And I just take you through the environmental impacts. Next. So these are the impacts on soil organic carbon, soil structure, soil temperature is cooler, soil moisture is higher, better soil biology, better water infiltration. Next. And this resilience to floods. This is the cyclone Monta which hit us in October 2025. And as you can see, these are adjacent fields. So the chemical farming field has completely collapsed where the natural farming plot is intact. And we have seen this through every cyclone that we have faced, that natural farming crops are very resilient. Next. This is a banana field, 100% damage and 0 damage in the adjacent banana field. Next. This is a video, you can watch it. Next. It shows resilience. Then we looked at what makes it resilient. And as you can see there, years of natural farming, you can see the chemical farming on one side, very little of the rhizosheath, roots have not gone very deep. And then greater than 3 years, you can see the soil is dark in color, roots have gone deeper, the rhizosheath is much stronger. Next. But then we discovered, thanks to an Australian scientist, it's not only the roots, but also the shoot which is much stronger. So those are the microscopic slides of the shoot system. When we put the shoot under microscope, so chemical field, you can see the cell structure is not there, destroyed, whereas the cell structure is intact in natural farming. Then we also discovered that the efficiency, the rate of photosynthesis is much higher in natural farming. And that we can measure through the Brix readings. That means there is a refractometer which says how much of the sugars are there in those leaves, which is an indicator of the rate of photosynthesis. So you can see chemical field, the Brix value of just 5%. Second year natural farming 12%, third year natural farming 15%. And the more turbidity also, because it's a measure of total dissolved soil. So this Brix reading is a very, very important indicator of the health of the plants. And not the color. It is what is the amount of sugar in those in the sap of the leaf. Next. And so we looked at the Brix reading for all the crops, and this gave us a very important breakthrough that the higher the Brix reading, above 14, means the plants are very healthy, about 12, but better after 14. And if you have a healthy plant, pest will not attack that plant. So you don't need even the biopesticides when your field is healthy. Brix readings are higher than 14. Similarly, because of good aeration and healthy plants, there won't be any viral or fungal disease attack of the plant. And third, which is most important, which we discovered only recently, that if the Brix levels are higher, the leaves become hygroscopic. So that is how they are able to harness water from the air. So that's one of the most important discoveries. Next. Next. Again, GHG emissions, we've been working on the AWD, alternate wetting and dry. Next. Better biodiversity. Next. Yes, this is the most important slide, I would say. The full impact of natural farming is that it can cool the planet. I never imagined that something like this can happen when we started this. So we are able to see very clear differences in the soil temperatures between natural farming field and a fallow field. Next. So we did this across the state. We found 20 degrees centigrade difference between barren fields and NF fields, but also 10 degrees centigrade difference between natural farming and chemical farming. So we are now exploring this with collaboration with the Potsdam Institute of Climate Impact Research as to what this means for the climate or the planetary cooling, which I think is the most important task for all of us. Next. Next. So we are present in 22 states. So some of them we've been there for more than a year. Meghalaya we've been there for more than 3 years, getting some outstanding results. Next. And we're also present in 2 countries. Our farmers have gone to Zambia and Sri Lanka, getting some very interesting results there. Next. These are our farmers in Zambia and the Zambian farmers looking at a good harvest. Next. Then we have a very important part of our work is research. Next. So we set up a research academy where we, do research with established research institutions, but also we do internal research, and we are also developing farmer scientists. Next. So we have close to 1,000 farmers who are in the process of becoming farmer scientists. A 4-year course, they get a degree in natural farming, but condition for graduation is not passing the examination. They should be earning 25,000 rupees per month. Otherwise, they'll repeat. So that is the basic criteria for passing. Next. These are all the global research institutions who are working with us. University of Reading, Potsdam Institute, TICSAT, etc. Next. We're also working with the State Agriculture University, Horticulture University, and many ICR institutions. Next. And we're conducting our own research. So I told you our objective is do nothing farming. So we are finding this in the 6th year. So I thought, why can't we not get it earlier? So we are doing that research to find out how much time it takes to reach what I call as the ultimate state, do nothing farming. So we are doing these experiments to show what happens to the soil that doesn't require any botanical pesticides, it doesn't require any biological inputs, and it requires very little water. So farmers need to sow the crop and harvest. The second one is we are looking at, can we get the same yields as chemical farming with only pre-monsoon dry sowing, rabi dry sowing, crop diversity, but without any biological inputs. So that's in the 2nd year of our experiment. First year we found just with natural farming and with 25% less chemical fertilizers, we get similar or higher yields than chemical farming. The third one is how important is the animal breed. We are trying with cow dung, buffalo, oxen, etc. Then the fourth one is, do we really require cattle manure? So we are trying with Atavi Chaitanya Dravana. The fifth one is prosperity per acre. So 1.20 acres, rupees 25,000 rupees per month every farmer should earn. Then can we reduce water requirement? In the first year itself, can we ensure that there is no yield penalty? How best can we improve our practices? Finally, restoration of degraded and fallow lands. And the research on cooling impacts of natural farming perhaps will be the most important work that we'll be doing, and I'm hoping that we get some very interesting results out of that. Next. So I'll skip this, but these are all the paradigm shifts that are happening as a result of our work. So we are saying if you see a pest, that means your plant is not healthy. And what are we doing? We are killing the pest. We are not thinking of how to strengthen the plant. Weeds again show that there is, some problem with your soil. But we are killing the weeds, but we are not doing anything more. So these are the various paradigms that we are shifting in agriculture because of our work. Next. Yeah, so this is the last slide, and thank you very much, Kavita, for being generous with time. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you. Sorry, for some of the things that you do need to share, the kind of time that's available in a Sammelan like this is not adequate. But let me also assure you that we've given APCNF the largest chunk of time in this Sammelan. All speakers got 15 to 20 minutes at the most in the plenaries. And we are glad to have organized a 1 hour special plenary. Thank you, Vijay Kumar Garu. I think the message to all the participants here is not just about the science part that he shared. Maybe in my introduction I shouldn't have said here is a bureaucrat, here is a bureaucrat. He's certainly on his way to become a scientist. Maybe he's someone who's walked more farmers' fields than any other bureaucrat. But I think the message to all of us is that we have to ask our governments in other states, why are they not doing this kind of work in those states? What prevents them from scaling up this paradigm as the mainstream paradigm, putting women farmers in the forefront and understanding that there's a new cutting-edge science around the microbiological life that's running life on this planet. As he rightly said, the science of understanding that living roots feed the soil and not just what we keep thinking that soil is feeding the roots and the plants. Thank you again for your time, sir. Thanks for coming here. I just, a loud round of applause for what Convocation is doing and for Mr. Vijay Kumar. So I'd like to announce that, thank you, sir. I'd like to announce that the plenary session right now is over. We'll move to the parallel sessions. In just 5 minutes time, go to the Science Bhavana. And there, I think we should stretch the session till 1:15. And if we can wind up lunch by 2 o'clock, please come back for the closing plenary at 2 o'clock itself. If not 2, we'll start at 2:10. Please go to the parallel sessions. Today we have some important parallel sessions which have not happened earlier, including gene editing in our food systems, markets for organic and natural farming. What happened to free trade agreements? Did we finish it yesterday? Sorry. Okay. We have gene editing in our food systems. We have Julie Karyappa, we have markets. And I also want to announce that some of our participants have come up with their own session plan, which will happen right after we close at 3:30 or 3:45. They want to do a session on agripreneurs, entrepreneurship, and that will happen here. And it's some of our participants who have come together to curate a new session that has not been printed in the program schedule. Please go to your parallel sessions. There's documentary screenings. I'm very sorry that it's slipping our announcements again and again. There are documentary film screenings happening in Nalla Auditorium. Please do join those also in Nalla Auditorium. Thank you.